Okay.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Mount Diablo Unified School District Board of Education for June 24, 2019. And I ask you to please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to do roll call, and we'll start with Ms. Basin. Here. Ms. Mayo. Here. Ms. Cowan. Here. And Ms. Rookie is here, and Mr. Lawrence. I'm trying to find the wording. I know he's on the phone. He's in Italy. Brian Lawrence will participate via teleconference from the lobby of Hotel Porto Rocco via Corone 19016 Monte Rosa, Almares, SP, Italy. If anybody wants to go join him over there instead of sitting here, you're feel free to know where he is.
Our meeting will be over by the time you get there.
Yeah. We'll be doing, and I think it's what, really early in the morning, so good for him for being a trooper.
4:15 and I'm here.
Oh. Yeah. So we'll be doing a voice vote on everything to give him the opportunity to weigh in. So I'm going to now report out on actions taken in closed session. So item 7.1 was item number 1, negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to EERA Government Code Section 3549.1. Agency negotiators Nellie Meyer, Lisa Murphy Oates, Rose Ramos. Agencies MDEA, DMA, MDSPA, CSCA, CST Local 1, and Teamsters Local 856. So the board was provided a detailed update of negotiations with all of the units I just referenced, and provided specific direction. Item 7.2, number 2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employees. Government Code Section 54957B1. 4 cases. In case number 1, the board provided direction. In case 2 and 3, the board received information. And in case 4, the board also received information. Item 7.3, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B. 2 cases, and in both cases we received information from our legal counsel. Item 7.4, confidential student matters pursuant to Ed Code 35145.5. The board voted to approve a settlement with a family. And that was our closed session. We now move to public comment. Public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District that is not on this agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. If there are multiple speakers on any one subject, the public comment period may be moved to the end of the meeting. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. So for those of you that have not had the opportunity to be at a board meeting before, we always like to explain this part. We are governed by what's called the Brown Act, which means that when we get to public comment, our job is to listen. We're happy to have people come and share their thoughts and ask questions, and our role as board members is to listen. If we are compelled or feel like we want to ask a question for clarification of the comments from the public speakers, then we can do that, but we cannot respond. So it sometimes feels a little awkward to be standing there telling us passionately what you want to tell us, and we're just looking at you. So not to take that personally, we're taking notes. We may subsequently ask our staff or superintendent to do a follow-up or address it in the future. But so we are listening, I can assure you that, but we will not be commenting. So we will start with Julie McSweeney.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, can I give one little more piece? I'm sorry, Julie, for interrupting, but the other thing I should explain, you have a little set of lights on the podium there, and that's a timer, because you explained there's a 3-minute limit, so it's just like driving. You'll get a green light, and then you'll get a yellow light, and then you'll get a red light to say that your time is up. Okay?
Thank you. Regarding sexual health education, I have become increasingly concerned about the psychological well-being of children. The mental health departments are already inundated with cases of attempted suicide, arm cutting, etc. There are some interesting articles popping up regarding the chaos in the United Kingdom from progressive sex education. And it seems schools are competing with Hollywood. Schools used to be a place for education, now it is a place for indoctrination. Evolution, relativism, immorality encouraged through sex education. I would just like to know what has happened to academics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Heidi Gleisner?
I have some handouts to hand to you guys. Can I do that? I also have more for the public if they decide that they want to look at these. I have some extra ones.
So you want to introduce yourself into the microphone?
yes,
That'd be
yes.
helpful.
So my name is Heidi Gleisner, and I am here today to address the comprehensive sexual education curriculum as well. I want to speak specifically to the 5th grade curriculum, which is being taught currently in this school district to 10 and 11-year-olds. The curriculum comes from Advocates for Youth, but and I'm just going to highlight 3 lessons right now. I know this is supposed to be disclosed to the parents, but it's hidden down in the website beneath lots of layers. So in lesson 4, it talks about making sense of puberty, and in that lesson, it's conducted in a co-ed class, and the class watches a video where it talks about boys masturbating and being horny. Later, there's also a video for girls to watch as well. Again, this is in a co-ed class, but there's no mention about masturbation or being horny. Then when we get on to lesson number 5 and 6, it's a discussion about sexual and reproductive anatomy. And that's why I brought these handouts here for you. So we have the male anatomy picture here, and then we have the female anatomy picture here. You will notice if you look at both of these together, where is the male anus? This diagram is medically inaccurate. Why is the anus even necessary for a discussion about sexual reproduction? I would say that this is sexual discrimination at minimum, but more importantly, it doesn't take into account the unintended consequences. We do not know how children internalize information they are given, especially in a public setting amongst their peers. Again, we are talking about 10 and 11-year-olds. I'm talking about the fact that the male diagram does not show the anus. The female diagram does show the anus. It's not out of the realm of possibility that these children could start to internalize and wonder about anal sex as a form of safe sex, because this is also being talked about in reproductive anatomy. This curriculum is completely developmentally inappropriate, and nowhere is it mandated by AB 329 to be taught in kindergarten through 6th grade. So I'm urging the board to get rid of medically inaccurate curriculums that could lead and perpetuate a further rape culture where our children are the collateral damage. How many more Me Too's are we going to listen to? It needs to end today.
Thank you. Denise Hirsch?
Here's the diagram if anybody wants to see it.
Good evening, honored board members and Superintendent Dr. Meyer. Responsibility. I've talked to you about it before. Every one of our public servants, including you on this board, as well as the staff of this district, signed an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, both for the U.S. Constitution and the California State Constitution. Over the last 2 years, you have violated various aspects of education codes and California laws. May I mention that you rolled out the sex ed curriculum in 2018 without board oversight or board review. May I also mention that you violated child sex laws by teaching consent for sex in middle school and high school. Children under the age of 18 cannot give consent. Children giving consent is considered child sex, and it's against the law. And in this state of California, child sex is actually against the law, and yet you taught them masturbation too, and the clitoris is sensitive to 10-year-olds. In addition to that, you have also violated the 2nd year in a row, again, the opt-out laws of this state. The first year of our new sex ed curriculum, you stated that parents had the right to opt out of all or nothing. In other words, parents could opt out of all 11 lessons or none of the lessons. Then in this last school year, just ended, you allowed opt-out of only 3, stating that the remaining 6, a parent didn't have the right to opt out. I do believe in October of 2018, the very next board meeting after the 9/24 meeting, I warned you all that you were in violation of opt-out laws for a 2nd year in a row, and I warned you that there would be consequences. I keep providing to this board various education codes that are relevant to my public comments. So here's one more for you. Pay attention. California Ed Code 51240 states, if any part of a school's instruction in health conflicts with the religious training and beliefs, including personal moral convictions of the parent or the guardian, that student shall be excused. In addition, 51937, another Ed Code, it is the intent of the legislator to respect the rights of parents or guardians to supervise their children's education on the subject of human sexuality. And this code goes on to state, parents have the ultimate responsibility for imparting values regarding human sexuality to their children, and you shall not override their parent authority. You, all of you, my board and superintendent, have violated various laws and requirements of your position as elected officials and as appointed staff of this district. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution. You are in violation of both the California state and the United States Constitution. This is another warning to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Disbrow?
when I came forward, I didn't grab enough for all of you, but I will make sure each one of you has one if you're open to that. Good evening. My name is Lisa Disbrow. I am a parent and a California educator, and a proud one. I wish to address the Greater Mount Diablo District community tonight on the topic of comprehensive sexuality education and parental rights. I'm going to move this for just a second. Thank you. Just a year ago, a parent-teacher citizen group was formed to advocate for parent rights and to demand an end to the sexualization of our children in public schools. Parents, grandparents, and citizens who believe young children, tweens, and teens deserve to be protected from adult-oriented concepts of sexuality via explicit, graphic sexual behavior instruction and hands-on activities such as condom races and matching genital anatomy to vocabulary in co-ed classes can now find support through informedparentsofcalifornia.org. And this is what I'm urging our community, our staff, and the rest of California to take a peek at. MD-USD teachers and staff who object to the state of California imposing and coercion of employee personal or religious beliefs in regards to gender orientation and gender fluidity can also find support at informedparentsofcalifornia.org. Informed Parents of California has over 30,000 members and is a statewide resource. We also offer a local group called Informed Parents of Contra Costa. We offer information in English, Spanish, Mandarin, and Korean. Questions are encouraged and information is abundant. You will find access to videos of our Sacramento marches, radio interviews, conferences that you can share with your family and friends statewide. Everyone now interested in finding opportunities to engage in both local and state action to protect the dignity, decency, and parental authority rights regarding our children's health, safety, and education can now join informedparentsofcalifornia.org. We are also on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Clyde Massendale.
Good evening. I'm here reading this for a parent, Leah Bush. I chose to opt my 7th grade child out of the Family Life curriculum this past school year. She was provided an alternative assignment after reading the Education Code 51939 Section B and C. My understanding is that the assignment may be provided with the expectation that an assignment needed to be completed could be perceived as an academic penalty. My daughter did complete the assignment because she was worried her grade would suffer. I find that ironic, her doing homework out of fear, when a portion of her assignment was to write about peer pressure. When I inquired with the teacher, I received the following response back from the school principal. It stated, "I wanted to let you know the excusal from the program is not an excusal from work. Students that are in an alternate setting complete the alternate assignment so that it validates the curriculum time. I double-checked with my curriculum director at the district just to verify this. The work assignment, including the essay, follows the time frame of the other students who were in the classroom. I would like to understand where in the code, it states that a makeup assignment is required when I am illegally allowed to opt my child out of the curriculum. Thank you." Thank you.
Leilana Moffitt.
I would like to thank you guys for letting me speak. I am a senior at Ignacio Valley High School, and I am also a softball player. I'm here to talk about the softball field, the outfield. It is really bad. There are lots of holes. I am also an outfield player, so I did end up twisting my ankle a couple times out there on the field, and I was just trying to see if maybe we can get a turf field out there, because our field is really bad, and I'm not the only student that has been injured on the field. There have been other students that are like victims of being injured on the field, and it would help us a lot play better. Not only that, and we can actually practice out on the field. We can't even do practices out there because the field is pretty bad. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask you a question? Where do you practice if you can't practice on the field?
A lot of our outfield practices are done on the infield, so we do practice out there, just not, we aren't able to go out and do a full practice.
Thank you.
Michaela Colazas Polanco. Probably messed up your name badly, I apologize.
Hello, my name is Michaela Colazas Polanco, and I am part of the softball team at 5E. I'm a student there, I'm a sophomore. And last year I was on the team, but there were many issues with the outfield. Whenever we asked to get them fixed, they weren't necessarily fixed, and if they weren't fixed properly. They would fill up the holes, but they weren't done evenly, so it would be overdone, and then they put like this weird dirt. It wasn't like dirt part of the field, it was like this other type. And then because of that, one of my good friends on the team had got injured. She had twisted her ankle very severely, and she was out for the rest of the season. And for me, I also played outfield, and when I played, a lot of my ankles would most of the time get really sore because it wasn't an even ground. And it was just very uncomfortable to be there most of the time. But we had to work through it. But yeah, we would like more maintenance on the field, or like Leilani said, for a turf field would be very nice for us. But if we can't get that, just better maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Val Melville. Is that, I'm reading your email on the letters.
Yes.
Valerie Melville, sorry.
No problem.
I didn't look up.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the board for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Valerie Melville, and I am a softball coach at Ignacio Valley High School. I'm here speaking on behalf of our school, our softball program, our coaching staff, and of course our girls on the team. I spoke at a board meeting in April along with some of our parents from the team in regards to the issues that our girls previously mentioned. They've faced these issues for many years, and the district has been made aware many times. The biggest issue being the outfield. Like our girls stated, they are ridden with gopher holes. I've seen the bare minimum done to treat this issue. There are 2 traps set out in a wide open field, and I don't see that as a reasonable way to treat that field. In addition, lawn mowing is not frequent enough for this kind of sport, and weed management is also not frequent enough. Like our girl stated, the dirt that they use is inconsistent. Sometimes it's sand, sometimes it's a sticky type of clay, and it creates an inconsistency for our athletes to run on. Both parents, students alike, are scared to play on our field. We do run our outfield practices on our infield or on a blacktop, which doesn't allow them the proper practice, and it gives our team a disadvantage against others. Other issues with our field are there are lack of foul poles, lack of bullpens, lack of nearby bathroom facilities for both softball and baseball, which are very far from the main campus of school. The outfield does remain our biggest concern, and we propose that some of the Measure J funds be allocated towards at least making a turf outfield rather than the whole field, keeping the infield dirt so that it's a smaller area that needs to be maintained. A turf outfield would only require, it wouldn't require maintenance, it wouldn't require the mowing needed, and it wouldn't allow for the squirrels to have their habitat underneath us. So I do really want to push for that. Our families, our other teams are all pushing for this, even visiting teams in our league. We believe that if you make these improvements, our facility, it would inspire more students to participate in softball, and it would also inspire prospective students to participate as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
When you have games, do you have games on the YB field, or do you
Yes.
only have games at other schools?
We do host games at our field, and we've been addressed by other coaches. You know, they've addressed their concerns with us as well. You know, there are only 2 members of our coaching staff, and we do our best to try and even it out, but we are only 2 people, and we can't maintain that whole outfield. We try to keep it safe, but it's too difficult. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Victoria Adams.
Good evening to each and all of you board members. Again, my name is Victoria Adams, and I'm president of the East County branch of the NAACP. I'm here this evening to speak with you briefly, very briefly. The East County branch is in partnership with the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority chapter, and as such, we are working together to monitor the process for the hiring of the next superintendent. With that being said, I'd like to say best wishes and best regards to the outgoing superintendent, Ms. Myers. But with that, we would like to let you know that the purpose of this partnership is to ensure that the process be fair, transparent, and embrace the need for a diverse candidate pool. So with that, I have a letter here that I'd like to extend to you that we have sent to the selection committee so that you would have a chance to read that and be aware of what we are doing and what our goals and achievements, what we would like to achieve. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Give it to Ms. Myers. Just give her. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Andrea, LeBron, and as you're coming up, I just want to, there's a question of whether you want to speak in the general public comment or 9.2, which is around charter school expansion.
So the first one would be the general.
Okay, all right, on down. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrea LeBron, and I'm a parent leader at Rocket Ship Futura Academy in Concord. We are just wanted to thank Assistant Superintendent Espinosa for accepting our invitation to our parent leader group and talk with us. We are very interested in having a strong collaborating relationship with the school board, and we hope that you will help us to work toward that goal by responding our email. We just want to say thank you. We are interested to work with you guys, engage with all the parents in our school, and that's why we're like trying to reach you guys so that way you guys can come over to our school and have a meet the rest of the family, so we can pretty much to work with you guys. But I just want to say thank you for him to come all the way to school. It's been like an hour with us. Our parents they were so grateful, and we're gonna be reaching out to you guys as well. And I came to say that so that way you guys prepared to see our emails. Well, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, I must have. So who came to visit? Mr. Espinosa.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, that ends our public comment session, and we're going to move on to 9.1. The recognition. You can stay. Don't go away. This is really special. It'll only take a few minutes.
Shame him in the state.
Just kidding. It's kind of a fun thing. So this is the board's request for this agenda item so that we can honor and recognize our outgoing superintendent, Dr. Nellie Meyer. So what I'd like to do is start with asking if other board members would like to share our thoughts and comments. And we'll just each take turn if anybody want to share.
I thought we did this already, but I'll repeat that I really enjoyed getting to know Dr. Meyer and working with Dr. Meyer. And I'd like to think I've gained a new friend and that we're going to stay in touch after she's gone from here. Again, I learned a lot from you, Nellie. I know you learned some Godfather ethics from me, which will hopefully go well with you where you go. It's bittersweet, but maybe I'll get to see you in San Diego at the conference. So, but thank you for all that you did, and I really never expected to be a friend with any superintendent anywhere. So I thank you for that. I'll be looking forward to maybe having that happen again. Thank you, Nellie.
Go down the line.
I'm not going to look. Is it coming out?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to look Dr. Meyer in the eye because then I might cry. She never cries, but I have been known to cry. It has been an amazing journey to work with Dr. Meyer. We've shared some sad moments together regarding bereavements of staff and or family members. We've shared some exciting times and around successful student projects and staff recognitions and amazing achievements through our district. And I want to thank Dr. Meyer personally for establishing a breath of fresh air in our district and leading us with integrity and wisdom and faithfulness and being a presence throughout our community. It has been wonderful to work with you, and I hope that we will remain good friends and that I get to annoy you a little differently now.
Ms. Cow?
Well, I would like to thank you from my perspective from before I was on the board. You know, as a parent of children in the schools, you've been the superintendent as long as I've been here. And so I appreciate your work for our students. As a parent of my own kids, also as a volunteer in other schools, I've seen your work for many years from that perspective as well. And I've really appreciated having the opportunity to work with you on forming the district-wide foundation and working on Measure J and bringing some resources to the schools that will continue even after you're gone. So I want to thank you for your leadership in all of those areas. But in particular, I think I'm just so appreciative of what you've brought to this district with your leadership, your innovation, and your commitment to inclusion and to community, to really involving community members and making sure that we're serving all students. And we will, I know all of us, try to continue all of those values of serving every student and involving the community as much as we can moving forward. And best of luck in your new and exciting role in a new place.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lawrence, can you hear us? And would you like to say a few words?
I can. So I would just simply say that during my time on the board, the greatest, the accomplishment I'm proudest of is being part of the board that hired Dr. Meyer. And thank you for everything you've done for our students, our staff, and our districts these last 5.5, almost 6 years.
Great. Thank you very much. I had the opportunity to speak at great length, I think probably overdid it, but in introducing Dr. Meyer for our recent Academy Awards as the keynote speaker. So I took that opportunity to make her feel just as uncomfortable as I possibly could. I think I was successful. So I talked about her compassion, her passion, her integrity, her intelligence, all those wonderful characteristics that everyone has spoken about. I had the unique opportunity to work for her for a couple of years before I retired in 2015, and we still talk about that. I remember, you know, showing her around the adult school, and it's just like, she's just such a quick study and just so sharp and but lovely, just so lovely. I wanted to do something tonight, but I thought I'll go for cheesy instead of so emotional. Just can't get away without being cheesy. So I wrote a little. This is not to be held up as an example of my best writing, but I just thought it'd be kind of fun. So just bear with me. It was back in August of 2013 when Dr. Nellie Meyer arrived on the scene. With flowing hair and a big bright smile, she let us know she was here for a while. She took the time to get to know everyone, then rolled up her sleeves and got things done. She identified good people to be in charge to accomplish all tasks, small and large. She led the way to answer the call of quality education for one and for all. She did it with kindness, respect, and style, and knew how to inspire us to laugh and smile. As we say farewell and get ready to part, we want you to know you're forever in our hearts. So, that's hard to do.
I'd just like to say, when I saw this on the agenda, I thought it was something completely different, and I went straight to the 9.2 and 9.3 because they're a little more interesting to me, let's just say. And so, thank you. This was a complete surprise. I should read more carefully in the future.
Well, that was very done. Miss Maher is a genius, so she very intentionally, because when we put things on the docket, the superintendent has to approve them, so she had to be pretty cagey about that one. So come on down here. So this is just a little token of our appreciation. So I'll read it to you. So Dr. Nellie Meyer, Superintendent 2013-2019, in eternal gratitude for your exemplary leadership and dedication to the students, staff, and community of Mount Evelyn Unified School District, presented by the trustees of the Board of Education. And we're happy to have a guest with us this evening, Mr. Ryan Brown, from Representative Mark DeSaulniers' office.
I was trying to hide my face from you. Good evening, everyone. Ryan from Congressman Mark DeSaulniers' office. Thank you for your special way of writing that, so she wasn't aware of this as well. With me, I do have a congressional record from Congressman DeSaulniers. What this means is that this is submitted into the history of Congress forever. Specifically thanking you, and it's dedicated to the hard work that you've done here and for the years of service that you've done for the community. So if I may, I'd like to present that to you.
And I would like to also thank the Congressman's office for working with me to have a flag flown over the White House, which is in a case there for Dr. Meyer. There are probably some people in the district that are kind of surprised about a person running around to different schools and running flags up the flagpole and lowering them. But I hope that tomorrow this flag can be posted out here in the district office so that it will have been flown in the district in tribute to your dedication to the Mount Diablo School District. And thank you to the Congressman's office for facilitating this flag.
Okay. Moving on. So we're now moving to 9.2, resolution number 18-19-62, moratorium on charter school expansion and strengthening of transparency and oversight in governance and practice.
I would like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 18/19-62 has been revised, and as it has been revised, and I want to thank the staff that helped me with that revision for my concerns from the last meeting.
Second.
She submitted one card and said 8.0. Did you want to speak on this item as well?
Oh, we have to do a voice vote.
Thank you so much for letting me speak again. I'm here representing all the parents for Old Charter School, and I have my daughter is in elementary school. She's done with third grade now. She's going in fourth grade. This is going to be the 4th year in my daughter in the charter school, and it's been amazing. She's been growing so much, and I only can say to you guys, whatever you guys are going to decide, just think that we can bring more options as a parent, and with you guys working together, that we can bring more options at school, more teachers into the city as well, and more opportunity for a better future for our children. And I'm just warning you, say pretty much, this is a charter school that we don't pay. It's not a private school, and this is a wonderful program that all parents can pretty much. I cannot support it because I'm a single mom. I cannot pay for private school, and charter school is an other option. I'm not saying that the rest of the kids are for charter school, but so many kids are being helped a lot, and high school, middle school, and pretty much elementary school are the base for our kids. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other comments or questions? If not, we will move to a voice vote. So Ms. Mason?
Aye.
Ms. Mayo?
Aye.
Ms. Cowan?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that passes 5-0-0. Okay, moving on to 9.3, resolution number 18/19-65, eliminating the use of glyphosate in the district. And we have one card on this, Sheila Hill.
Hopefully this doesn't count on my time.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board, and staff. My name is Sheila Hill. Thank you very much for adding a formal resolution to tonight's agenda banning the toxic pesticide Roundup for use on all MDUSD properties. This is a really important action that will help protect students and staff from exposures to glyphosate, which has been linked to numerous health problems, including cancer. The M&O department has also updated their pesticide use list to exclude this product. Actually, they had 2 different glyphosate products that they were using from their toolkit, and I'm hopeful that the intention is not that this product will be replaced with a similar toxic product of another name, as one board member stated recently to a community member that the district would be using alternative herbicides. That is not the solution. If this resolution passes, there are plenty of non-chemical alternatives and preventative measures that can and should be used, and using least toxic measures is the intent of the Healthy Schools Act legislation. Since your attention is on this important topic, I would be remiss not to address the issues that surround the Healthy Schools Act and the use of Roundup and other pesticides. I have stood here many times over the course of many years and asked that the M&O department be held accountable by this governing board for complying with the basic provisions of the law that continue to be ignored. Namely, number 1, a visible warning sign is to be posted 24 hours before until 72 hours after every pesticide application, providing clear and complete details of what was used, when it was used, where it was used, and why. That is still not happening. Just to reiterate, and I've said this before, I started working on this issue when my son was in kindergarten. That's when the Healthy Schools Act passed. He went through this district in elementary, middle school, high school, and is already out of college. And here we are actually taking a step now, but that's how long this has gone on. Number 2 is that parents who have asked for prior notification are to be notified in writing 24 hours before any pesticide application. Both of these right-to-know provisions are included in this law to provide parents and staff at schools the ability to protect themselves and their children from pesticide exposures. There is absolutely no excuse for them to continue to be ignored. Public records review requests are another area that need your attention. I and others have had our requests blatantly ignored. They just get no response. It's not acceptable. I implore you to put some checks and balances in place for the M&O department, as there is a clear need for oversight and transparency. According to the State Education Code, responsibility for enforcing the Healthy Schools Act rests with this Board of Education. Again, I am very grateful to finally see this issue on the agenda. I encourage you all to vote yes on this resolution, and I implore you to take further action on these additional issues to help protect our students' safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
I would like to move to approve Resolution 18-1965, eliminating the use of glyphosate.
Second that. And I just wanted to say to all the parents and concerned community members that emailed me, I didn't answer, but as soon as I got it, I requested, as I'm sure the rest of the board did, that it be put on this agenda to be considered. So, and I wanted to really thank you, because then you circled back and thanked us for putting on the agenda. That doesn't always happen, so I'm happy that we're voting on this and approving it tonight. And I agree, we can always do better.
And we heard from a number of parents and community members, and I want to thank everyone who participated in that. I think it is an important issue as a parent and community member, who experiences this kind of thing daily. I think it's a very important thing, and I'm glad that we're moving forward on this.
And I think the best information that we learned was that the district had stopped using the products in October of 2018. So it's been some time since the product has been used in the district. And this whole process, so this was definitely on the radar of our leadership. So thank you for everybody. Okay, we'll do a voice vote. Ms. Mason?
Aye.
Ms. Mayo? Aye. Ms. Cowan?
Aye.
And Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 5-0-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to board member reports, and start with Ms. Mason. You don't have to have
I'm very quick tonight. I do represent the board on the Keller Mitigation Committee Fund, and so over the last week I've read 172 applications, and we are now interviewing all of them. So I've been going at it. I started 8 this morning, and we interviewed 30 people, and then I came right over here for this meeting. So.
I would just like to take the opportunity to wish our staff and families a great summer break if you're not doing summer school, and we'll look forward to seeing you back in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Summertime, our reports are short. I just had one thing. I was at a women's summit recently and met a representative from Anthem Health who let me know that they have paid internships available. So that was really exciting for students, and connected with Heather Fontanilla just recently. So hopefully there'll be something to come out of that. And then we had the budget advisory meeting recently as well, where I just, I think one thing that I just want to say is that I've been extremely frustrated with our state legislature. I know all of us, so many in the community and across the state have advocated for our state to fully fund our public schools. And what we have heard is that the difference between the January budget and the May budget for our school district was $60,000. I mentioned that to our state senator yesterday when I ran into him, and he said $60,000 per student. No, it was 60,000 total for the whole district. This is extremely frustrating for all of us who are doing our best to try to make sure that our students have what they need, and that is really hard to do when we're, first in the nation in terms of our economy, but 41st in terms of our per pupil funding from the state. So everyone keep advocating, keep talking to your state senators and assembly members. They apparently need to keep hearing from us.
Mr. Lawrence? Yeah. What time is it now? Like 6 a.m. So yeah, I want to piggyback on the comment about our state legislators. The thing that was still disheartening to me, there was an article in the East Bay Times yesterday, I think, by someone who's often speaking in this manner, but just the point about where we are being 41st in the nation per pupil spending is being challenged in this article. So we still have a lot of work to do. I'm hoping that the CSBA can help respond to that message as well. So anyway, so yeah, because it really boils down to how we're funding education and going forward. So and that's all I will say. And we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Last report.
We could ask her to come back.
First of all, I want to say my very first report started without a slideshow, so I will end tonight without pictures. I want to personally thank the Board of Education for their dedication and service and hard work, and phoning in from Italy, Hawaii, Anaheim. All of you at some point have continued to go above and beyond. So thanks to each and every one of you for the positive relationship, support, and I very much enjoyed working with you. I also want to thank the strong team, many of whom are sitting here right now in the Dent Center and Walnut Creek Willow Creek Center, and just comment that our very strong team of staff members, they really work hard and dedicate themselves on behalf of the students, and I see it every day and it never stops. So I just have to commend this group. I have never worked with a stronger team, so I wanted to thank them. I also wanted to share that in this office, I could just look at every face and see somebody who I have personally seen work miracles, do amazing things, and really love what they do. And so it's really nice to have been so fortunate. Also wanted to say at our schools, we have people every day inside the classroom, outside the classroom, who really make students their priority, and that is really what they truly believe, and they're there every day doing that. It's not an easy job, but they work very hard at supporting our students. I want to also note that we have this wonderful group of parents, and I go parents/community members, and so if you ever were a parent, you count. If you ever were a student, you count. If you just happen to be close to the building, you have given something of your time and effort, and I've so much appreciated the consistent support and love that all of you have shown me, and your respectful nature, and just great positive feedback, and always been very honest with what you thought. So I really, really appreciate that. I see one of my favorite students next to my children right out here, Drew. But I want to mention that our students really are certainly why we're here, but we could not be prouder with the results of our efforts when we see students who graduate and come back and come to board meetings and may even someday run for something. So we're very proud of all of our students, and So for that, it has been an honor and a privilege, and you really got me, I have to say. And Linda said I'm not a crier because she's only seen me cry. She hasn't seen me cry. She's heard me perhaps, but not seen. And I do just want to welcome, and he's not here tonight, but I want to officially welcome our interim superintendent, who will be here July 1st, Roger Byland. As I mentioned before, he comes to us with a calm demeanor and a kind heart, and I'm really pleased that he will be here to, as I told him in the hallway, you're going to take my baby, and he said, I know. So with that, I just want to thank all of you so much for everything, and I know I haven't gone away. You keep thanking me, so I just want to say I think this might be it. So thank you so much, and I appreciate everything.
Tried to throw her a big party, but she wouldn't have it, so we're doing it all here tonight. Okay.
But we did have the television cameras come out just for this.
Yeah, really. We arranged that for you.
I like how they turn them off, you know. You guys are
Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved, adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Does the board have anybody have any requests to pull any items?
Yeah, 1212, 1213, and 1214.
Anything else? Okay, do you want to, Brian, no, but do you want to make a motion for it?
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus items 1212, 1213, and 1214.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we'll go to a voice vote. Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. Mayo? Yes. Ms. Cowan?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
I vote yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, so that passes 5-0-0. So now we'll move on to the items that were removed. Catch up over there. Okay, so now we have,
Will be 14-1.
14-1.
And the issue is the same on all three of them. It's the same as it's been since I first took my seat here. They indicated that they did not, these contracts felt they did not need to be fingerprinted, and I cannot support that. I think anyone who is interacting with our students, and I looked at the services that they're going to be providing, and they're going to be providing either DJs or somebody else that's interacting with our youth on these occasions, and I feel they need to be fingerprinted, so I will not be supporting any of these.
Are these being presented now because they have to put down the deposit for the event?
Yes, and we've encouraged them strongly to plan ahead, but typically it is about a year out to reserve the date.
And have these organizations provided additional security at the events, or are the school staff working to assure that there's more oversight over the students at these events?
They typically have a standard number of a ratio that they have, and it includes staff that is fingerprinted and employees of, for example, Golden Gate Fields is one place for the prom. San Francisco City Hall is another, and let's see what this last one. Scottish Rite Center in Oakland, and so they also include staff from those 3 organizations.
These now items 13.1 through 13.3. Would that be what they would turn into here?
14.1, 14.2, and 14.3 is what the other 14.
Right, but 14 is where we go on. So it's 13.
Oh, I mean, this agenda says 14.
I move to approve items 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3.
Second. I guess I would have a comment that this obviously keeps coming up for a reason. So I didn't drill down as much obviously as Ms. Mason did, and so I think going forward it would be good to just have some thinking about what the thinking is and why we feel like it's okay. You know, just something to just.
Well, I think first off, the parents can't volunteer at the school. They can't go on a field trip without getting fingerprinted. So there's an equity issue there. The second issue you're facing is, I've just brought it up as an issue. So if something happens at any of these events with one of these people that aren't fingerprinted, you were warned.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So if parents chaperone on this event, they're fingerprinted, correct?
I don't know if they probably don't have parent chaperones on this event, but my understanding is on field trips, parents have to be fingerprinted to go on a field trip.
Correct, and we have a higher standard than other districts as far as that, for a good reason. But yes, this the different venues, and it's something we can consider, but one of the byproducts would be a narrowing of the venues. So that has been a concern coming from the schools. But there definitely, you can see both sides. If someone is an employee and something happens, they're fired, but the screening process, one possibility what we could do, and regardless of how you vote, is, you know, look at the different venues and communicate to the venues that we have that concern. It's, as I think I've said in the past, it's similar to a restaurant though. So if you go to a restaurant, I'm not saying it's the best, because this is a school sponsored event, so that's why Ms. Mason is bringing this up. But if you go to a restaurant, the employees are not necessarily fingerprinted. We don't know their background. But in this case, and really across the state and nation, the venues that hold these proms have a combination of their staff and our staff. And so therein lies the concern that their staff may not necessarily have the same Department of Justice standard that we have when we approve volunteers and staff members.
It's just, it seems like it's kind of begging for a solution. I mean, I realize it's not unique to Mount Tableau, so I think in a broader sense, these venues probably want to have these events there, and so it seems like, you know, from a legal standpoint, there could be something, you know, that we'll move ahead right now, but I think it's just something we can look at going forward. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Do we have the items? Do we confuse you?
So they should be 13 point, it's showing on the screen, it's still 12, that's why.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
We're unable to edit that.
Okay.
So there'll be 13.1,
Oh,
13.2, 13.3.
Yes. Okay, so we'll go to a vote. Ms. Mason?
No. Big surprise.
Ms. Mayo?
Yes.
Ms. Cowan?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 4-1. I forget how to say it. 410. 410. Thank you. All right, so now we are moving on to communications, district organizations. At regular board meetings, a single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation following consent agenda. Items are limited to those which are informational. And we'll start with Anita Johnson.
Surprised me. Good evening, President Durkee, board members, Superintendent Meyer. I'm Anita Johnson, President of Medea. Since 2014, the district's enrollment has declined by an average of 125 students per year. The proposed budget that will be presented this evening projects almost triple the loss for next year. This alarming projection makes it necessary to get serious about analyzing this negative trend. In my discussions with parents, teachers, and administrators, I've identified 3 major causes for declining enrollment. Number 1, high class sizes. Number 2, unaddressed, unacceptable student behavior. And number 3, dropouts. Solutions to these problems are embedded in our contract proposals. Over the last year, I have become aware of many parents that initially enroll their children in Mount Diablo schools, but were so alarmed by the high class sizes in kindergarten and first grade that they chose to move their child to a private school starting in second grade. The lower class sizes proposed by our bargaining team would allow the district to retain these students. At the last meeting, you heard from a parent who told how her daughter's first grade class was completely derailed for the entire year by 3 students whose intense needs and extremely disruptive behavior were never effectively dealt with, even though parents and the teacher all reached out to district administration on several occasions. I hope you have directed staff to follow up on this report and to explain to you why management neglected to address the needs of these 3 students and allowed 30 students to lose a whole year of education. Our proposal regarding administrative support for correcting student behavior addresses exactly this kind of situation, which is all too common in our district, especially at Title I schools. Our proposals for lower class sizes at Title I schools would also better support student behavior, as teachers would be more able to develop stronger relationships with students. The third reason for declining enrollment is that too many high school students are choosing to stop attending school. The district's dropout rate seems to have declined in recent years, but we are still losing far too many of our high school students. Dropping out is a tragedy that can be prevented, but prevention efforts must start well before 9th grade. Why are so many of our 9th graders unprepared for high school and lacking proficiency in both English and math? There are many theories, but one solution with guaranteed positive results is lower class sizes in elementary and middle schools. Teachers agonize over the students they don't have time to reach and students they don't have time to work with, but there are only so many minutes in a student's day. Teachers want to help these students and are calling on the district through our proposals to meet its moral imperative to provide an adequate education to all students. That is why class size reduction is such a critical component of our bargaining proposals. Implementation of our proposals will significantly reduce the decline in student enrollment, increasing district revenue, and most importantly, will ensure positive outcomes for students. When declining enrollment is discussed, management most often blames charter schools and motility. These are easy answers because they frame the problem as external forces over which management has no control. The truth is the district does have control over class sizes and behavior management protocols. The truth is that change is difficult. I am asking the board to take responsibility for the problem and direct management to implement the solutions we have proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Esperanza Flores.
Good evening. We can use like
the four of us, like DLAC committee. Here's Enrique, he's the president.
Hi, my name is Enrique Sanchez, parent, DLAC president for the Mon Diablo District Unified School.
Hi, my name is Veronica Martinez. Sorry, I am parliamentary, the DLAC.
Good evening, my name is Esperanza, I'm vice president from DLAC.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine, DLAC secretary.
So thank you for told for the DLAC. The DLAC is this year. I'm talking about is the really hard work together for the work the parents. Communication is very important for fluid information for learn English learning because it's very important, really hard work because it's the people is not confused. And then is for the is the social meeting is the no. It's only you know Dr. Meyer is you see for work is very important when parents and student help and try it. Me and another guy is a full solution. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Meyer, for coming for every single meeting for DLAC. I think me and another guy is I will miss you. Okay? So
first of all, I want to say thank you, Dr. Nelly Meyer, for your support, our DLAC, for attending to our meetings. I think it's very important. You are the example for all of the district, and I think it's very important. I would like to say, like at DLAC, we work together like a team. And this year, we do our best. And four of us, we graduate for the Project Inspire 3. And also, this is my first experience to went to CABE and Sacramento, Veronica and I, and
Long Beach.
They went to Long Beach, and I think it's good experience for us, especially for me, educate myself, because I think if you educate like a parent, you influence to impact to student success. And I think it's very important to recognize Enrique leadership and commitment and discipline, and I think good communication for work together, for listening our community, our parents, our teachers to be a better community. And also, I would like to say the key for student success, I think, is the parents involved. And I would like to say thank you to Mrs. DeMartini, vice principal 1 year ago in Diablo View Middle School, and Mrs. Patty, the principal, to choose me to represent Diablo View Middle School. And this is the way to learn more about how it's working at DLAC. And I am very happy to say my student is reclassified now. And also, we can do better because we do our best when we have, but we will have to improve our effective communication, like district, school, and our students. And also, I would like to say we have in mind a new project to inspire our students in English learning. They have so many years to reclassify because English learning is for the student when they really need, but for many years I think something wrong. But I think you have to a lot of things to work, but we do our best, and also we can improve. But I want to say thank you because we work together, but we're still here, and we can support each other for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your service too.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to business action items. 16.1, Mount W Unified 2019-20 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, and LCAP Federal Addendum.
Tuesday, President Turkey, I'm going to go ahead and drop off now.
Okay, all right, thank you for hanging in there. So this was on last meeting for information, and it's on for action tonight for approval.
So I make a motion that we approve the Mount Deb Unified School District's 2019-2020 Local Control Accountability Plan and the LCAP Federal Addendum.
Second?
Second.
Do we have questions or comments?
I was just curious, we have revised copies on our desk. Can staff share what the changes were in the document?
Going to ask Dawn Edwards to come on up and share. I believe we did see a change to some staffing, and I'll go ahead and let Dawn speak to that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Yes, there were changes on pages 3, 17, 43, 97, 160, and 180. Would you like me to go over each of those?
Briefly.
Briefly, okay. Looking for the underline here on page 3 and I don't see it.
It's at the bottom of the second paragraph, the words on behalf. Beneath the chart.
Just before the whole heading increase for career services, there's just two little words.
Okay, thank you. I don't see it, but thank you. Maybe my version didn't
So
get
are all the
underlined.
changes underlined and, or highlighting?
Yes.
Yes.
So I guess the most important questions are, you said there were staffing changes, and were there any financial changes? So those would be the most significant ones.
All right, let me look through quickly. Mike, are you aware of any financial changes?
Me?
Yes. Yes?
I'm not
No?
aware.
Okay. I believe all the changes were based on feedback and corrections.
We were provided a copy of the feedback attached to the docket.
So I can see on 17, I'm assuming we're looking for line outs or underlines, right?
Yes.
So there, you can see that at the top on the right-hand side, the estimated actual expenditure. So it says, where it says transportation included, that's line
Yes,
out.
it's
right?
crossed out. Perfect. Thank you. And then 43.
And I have clarification that there were not financial changes, that there were some adjustments, including
Wonderful.
the feedback.
Thank you. And it looks like page 43, we crossed out non-essential in the third box.
And there's another change on 44. Right. Second bullet says, explore establishing a reentry center.
Thank you for noting that. And then on page 97, we crossed out adding a lead nurse to the and 160. My apologies for not having these noted and ready. Thank you for your patience.
If I could, what I see is clarification of language. So, for example, non-essential, just understanding there really isn't such a thing as non-essential. And then establishing some editing that you see going on. And then you mentioned changing the A to a the.
Yes.
And
simple
so
things.
signifying that there's a single lead nurse as opposed to
Right, I think we had asked that at the last meeting about nurses, and that the case was that the nurse had already been hired, so it wouldn't be new in the next year.
correct. So it is
Right.
budgeted. I'm not certain if it is currently staffed because we did have a retirement in this
So I think that on
position.
180, we see that change.
page 160, Parent Faculty Club and Parent Teacher Association was added in the bottom box on the right-hand side.
Thank you.
Are you happy we asked you a question to answer for you?
Thank you so much for your
No, but
help.
you gave
It's
us the
very
page numbers.
appreciated.
Having a page number
Page
really
numbers
helpful.
are
Right. Okay, good. I'm glad I was helpful.
I appreciate how there's strikeout and also. And we can take that feedback forward to look and see perhaps there could be a summary of the strikeouts in the page.
Yeah, just even the page numbers are helpful, because once you look at them, you realize they're kind of minor, yeah. Thank you.
All very minor.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, any other questions or comments, or? Okay, we have a motion and a second, we'll do a voice vote. Ms. Mason?
Aye.
Ms. Mayo?
Aye.
Ms. Cowan?
Aye.
And I vote yes, and so that's 4-0.
401.
401.
4001, okay.
President Durkee, just a comment that we can go to electronic vote now that we have four. Correct.
We'll get clarification. Do you want to do that one electronically?
It's gonna take some time till we just.
I want to say thank you to the staff who worked so hard on this very large document. Yes. And particularly the summaries that are there now for parents and community to understand where the targeted dollars go. It's very, very helpful to have that.
Okay, so we voted on that. We're going to move on to 16.2, adoption of 2019-20 Mount Diablo Unified School District budget. Again, this was on for information last time. We're here for back for action. So would someone like to make a motion?
Madam President, I would move that the board approve the 1920 budget as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a
It's
second.
2019-20, sound like you meant 1920 the year.
Right.
Excuse me.
Like we're back in time.
Okay, we have a first and a second, and we can now go to vote. Are you ready for us to go electronic? No? Okay, and that passes 4001. Thank you. .3, public hearing for Senate Bill 858, excess of minimum reserve requirements. So I will now open the public hearing. If anyone wants to provide input on this issue. And we'll close the public hearing. That's the only action on this is the public hearing. Is that right? Okay. Moving on to 16.4, public hearing on composition of trustee areas by trustee area election. We have one public comment card from Michael Langley. How nice, you're standing up.
Madam President, we might want to have Mr. Frishaw present again, and then open up a public hearing.
I don't mind going second.
The purpose of the public hearing is to comment after Mr. Frishaw. As you remember from last time, Mr. Frishaw is your Howler demographer for the purposes of identifying trustee areas.
Good evening, members of the board. I will keep this brief. I know there's people in the back who are eager to get up and speak and do a better job than I am anyways. The thrust of the public comments we received 2 weeks ago had to deal with the timeline, and so I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that aspect. We have received an extension to this timeline for this process, so Instead of having to do this within a 90-day window over the summer, we have 180 days to leisurely take our time and do this process. So we have updated the calendar that you see on the screen for you. So tonight is the second pre-map public hearing, followed by the public hearing that you're going to conduct on the waiver request, and that waiver is just to ask the State Board of Education to waive the requirement that you have an election to change your election method. It's nothing to do with anything else but just the election change, not the map itself. So that would be the next item on the agenda. After tonight's public hearing, we'll start drawing scenarios, have a couple ideas of maps to share with the board and the public, and the first opportunity to really see those will be August 21st, 22nd, and 29th. I'll talk about that on the next slide. We'll have a series of community input meetings across the district for that purpose. Then we'll come back to the board on September 23rd for the first public hearing at the board meeting on the scenarios, and then follow that up with October 14th with the second public hearing on the scenarios, after which point the board could take action to select a map and finalize the process, or there could be additional opportunities as well before this goes to the county committee and finally wraps up the process. So a little bit about those community input meetings. It'll give a chance for folks to review the draft maps, interact in a slightly less formal setting, ask questions, get answers, say, I want to move this line from this street to that street, what would that look like? Be able to do all those kinds of things there. It will be an open house format, so you can see on the screen we've got 1 hour blocks on those 3 days. So on Wednesday the 21st, from noon to 1 at the Loma Vista Adult Center, from 5 to 6 at the Willow Creek Center multi-use room, and then from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Pleasant Hill Middle School community room. The next day we will start at 5 p.m. at Pine Hollow Middle School's library, followed at 6:30 at Foothill Middle School's library. And if you're on the second meeting, we're not there right at 6:30, be patient, we'll be there. And then on Thursday, August 29th, 5 p.m. here in this room, and then 6:30 at Riverview Middle School's library. So get to know the district really well through all that driving. Again, those are really an opportunity to interact one-on-one, provide feedback. We'll take all that feedback and revise the scenarios that we've developed in time for that September 23rd board meeting. So in order for that to happen, we'll have to have those scenarios finalized on or about September 16th. The scenarios will be posted on the district's website in anticipation of that September 23rd board meeting. So these are the considerations again: equal population. We're allowed a variance of up to 10% between largest and smallest. Areas have to be drawn to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, and that we're not doing anything to inhibit members of protected classes from being able to influence the elections. They have to be compact, they have to be contiguous, look at communities of interest, and that's really what a lot of the public feedback will come down to, is what are those communities of interest, how are they defined? We want these boundaries to be logical, so we want to follow man-made or geographic features that make sense to folks. Incumbency is an allowable consideration. We talked a little bit about attendance boundaries last time around as well, so that's all things that can be put into the mix. Just a little bit of the demographics of the school district based on the 2010 census: 250,371 residents. Again, this is everybody who lived within the district, regardless of age or ability to vote. So we'll have 5 roughly equal areas of 50,074 people. You can see the ethnic makeup there on total population as well as 18 and over. And then this is what is known as citizen voting age population, or CVAP. This is an estimate of those folks who are 18 and over and are citizens of the United States, so your potential eligible voters. This isn't exactly your registered voters, but this is if everybody who did register to vote, was eligible, did. And so this is highlighting, just for Federal Voting Rights Act purposes, what are the largest protected classes in the district, as well as any concentration areas that we may see in terms of the Latino citizen voting age population. You can see that in the map on the right-hand side, highlighting those census blocks where we have higher and lower concentrations of Latino citizen voting age population. Looks like the Bay Point area, for example, kind of in the central of the Concord area as well. We have some higher concentrations. So the questions for this public hearing is, before we go through the process of getting out the crayons and the abacus, is how should the lines be drawn? And really what's helpful is what communities do people think should be together or not be together, what neighborhoods, what dividing lines make sense, what highways or roads, what geographic features do folks in the community think are logical dividing lines. In some cases, some roads may not be dividing lines, and so there may be a corridor that should be kept together as opposed to be used as a dividing line. So that kind of feedback is helpful as well. Just similarly, just kind of providing some prompts for the community feedback so that people kind of have an idea of what to say. But I think school boundaries should be considered, shouldn't be considered, that sort of thing. So with that, really open it up for any questions or just allow the public input.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think you should remember that the board can also give input during the public hearing. Mr. Frucho, you don't have to sit there mute.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam President, members of the board, Larry, and our most illustrious superintendent, I came here to make the demographer's job easier, and I thought if I spoke as to what he really needs to concentrate on and you need to concentrate on, it would simplify the process. There are only two things you really want to look at in setting these boundaries. If we're going to have cut up the district, equal size in population, and compact. Any of the other considerations that were on the slide open us up to gerrymandering and making the district not fair to each area. If you look at the attendance areas, which a lot of people will say, well, that'll be great. The attendance areas were drawn for reasons other than compactness. In fact, a number of people have to drive by Ignacio Valley High School to go to the school that they're in. And you'll notice that some of our attendance areas have little tails moving here and there to capture particular district areas for a real estate value. And that should have nothing to do with who gets elected. Major boundaries like streets and roads, believe it or not, our board members will not have to cross roads every day just because they're elected to a specific area. It's not like kids having to cross Oak Grove Road. It is a compact area where those people who live in that compact area can vote for somebody who lives in that compact area also, and you represent them. So Oak Grove Road or Clayton Road doesn't really matter. School boundaries based on cities. There are some cities like, we have Walnut Creek in our district. Well, we don't have all of Walnut Creek. And Walnut Creek really doesn't matter as far as the district goes because they've got other kids. Martinez, we've got a little bit of Martinez. If we try to do it based on an artificial thing like where the boundaries to cities are, we're going to start seeing some elongated and some rather interesting shapes. And it may be considered that some of our cities have a higher socioeconomic level. And by that very nature, you're now social engineering, putting people together based on economics rather than a nice compact area. So to our demographer, I say, let them have their crayons, but have compact and equal sized districts and no amount of gerrymandering or finger pointing can stop us from having fair elections. Thank you very much. Illustrious.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was free.
I just wanted to share that it's been recommended that the board meetings, board members, not attend the community input sessions. That's something that many of us like to attend, the community input sections, because we like to hear the words firsthand from our community. So please understand that we will not be attending those meetings, but we will hear the reports back from the demographer and from our district staff. And it will be hard to stay away. Thank you.
We're going to make her.
You get your own presentations. You'll have another set of public hearings after those public hearings.
Yes, it's on.
Is it up? It's not working. No? No? This one? No?
Nellie had you turned off.
Well, when she turns them all on, it's,
Turn one on. Okay, wait.
yeah.
Speak.
You know, the purpose of the community meetings are to get input from the community, and I understand why the board members may want to attend those. But you do have, no, maybe I'll stand back here. And see, that one's on. Okay, try that. Okay, that works better, a little better. Okay. And in September and October, you will have, no, it doesn't have a switch on the switch. No, I think you lost me. This used to work. You've done something to it. Anyway, I'll just yell loud. How's that?
Just keep moving. That's the right button. It's just something's getting almost too
So, oh, there we go. Let's still gonna get feedback. Yeah, but there's this microphone's having an issue. Anyway, you will have two meetings, public hearing meetings on September 23rd and October 14th, at which you will have maps in front of you, and the same folks who come to the community meetings can come to those meetings. And the concern is that when you're making a decision on something, we have to ensure that you are getting the same information, all the board members are getting the same information at the same time. So, because of the situation that we're in as far as the demand to create trustee areas. So, that's why.
makes sense. Mr. Shanky, would you like to take this opportunity to sort of talk about the process a little bit? Just in terms of, besides the public hearings, the waiver and all that, do you want to wait till?
I was going to save that for the next item, but I can certainly talk about that. Mr. Someone holding it for me. Mr. Furchaw sort of began that process. Once again, this is a process that includes the creation of trustee areas, but because of the unique situation of school districts, you are required to report to another body, in order to create your trustee areas. The California Voting Rights Act was drafted along the lines primarily of cities, because cities can create their own elections without reporting to anybody else. So in order to account for that, we have to ask the county committee to approve our areas. And we have to ask the state board to waive the election to allow you to start this process. In effect, the waiver relates to an election which would approve you calling an election. And we see that as repetitive and redundant and a cost item that's not necessary, particularly because it's not applicable to cities when they create their trustee areas. So that's what the public hearing on the waiver is, which is the next item. It's not waiving the hearing on the trustees, it's waiving the hearing to call, waiving the election to call an election. So, it's very easy to confuse those. I understand that it's because of the nature of the complicated nature of the education code and layering the election code on top of it. So, and the state board grants these waivers routinely, but it's obviously up to you to apply after a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. So, just again, if anyone would like to make a comment, this is a public hearing on the composition of trustee areas. I just wanted to be armed with as much information as you can. It can get a little confusing. I'm still trying to completely understand it. And so, this is an opportunity. So we really are hoping people will participate in this, in the community meetings. We have a timeline we have to meet.
think one of the things that maybe we've said at the last meeting that was a lesson learned from some of the other areas that have gone through this is that ideally we are not cutting across precinct areas because that makes it very difficult for our elections department. So that was one area that if we're at least not cutting across all the precinct areas, that would be a benefit.
Yes, we're going to do our best on that, recognizing that precinct areas are larger than the census blocks that we use to divide up the areas, and sometimes aren't carved in a way that keep communities together that makes sense. So we'll do our best not to create any micro precincts, as they're called, but we also want to make sure we have equal population and areas that make sense for the school district. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but I know there's some sensitivities to the precincts, and we'll do as much as we can there.
Have you had experience where you have a mixture of at-large and by district?
I'll probably refer this back to the one with the bad microphone here. But generally, no, that if there is any sort of at-large election occurring within a district, that's viewed as an at-large election, which could be challenged under the Voting Rights Act.
There's no, what lawyers say, there's no safe harbor. So you're could be thrown on the rocks of litigation if you do that.
I would like to say thank you to Mr. Rafferty out there for accepting
He's
this.
in Europe also. He's probably meeting
for
with
accepting
Brian
this
right now.
this extension, because I think, as we heard from parents before, July would have been a really challenging time to have held those public meetings, and so I'm appreciative that we're
If it
able
wasn't
to
for
hold
Mr. Rafferty,
meetings.
we wouldn't even be having the conversation, so there you go.
I'm glad we're moving forward to have the meetings in August instead of July, and that we'll have time to be able to notify the community about these meetings.
We're going to be developing a publicity plan. Ursula is in the process of reviewing the webpage. We'll probably be releasing some more press releases later this week, and then we're going to be doing a little more during July. Be ready in beginning of August to roll out more contact. We're looking at church groups. We're looking at chambers of commerce. We're looking at local other community organizations. And Ursula is helping me. She's actually doing it because I'm not a PR guy, but she'll be doing that. We'll be rolling those out. And I've already talked to Roger Byland a little bit. He's looking forward to helping us do this. He says he's never done it, so he said more the merrier.
Yeah, I think there were some great suggestions about making sure we have it communicated in the different languages and through the systems that the schools have, such as the phone calls and
as
like
we
that.
know, those systems really don't work until school's back. So I think we're targeting August 15th and afterwards to really get the word out. So that, and remember, it's not just the schools we're shooting for. We're also shooting for community organizations, because it does relate to CVAP, our favorite CVAP, which is Citizens of Voting Age. So that's what we really want
I think I've said this before, and I'll probably keep saying it. Just with this whole process is that we want to do it with integrity. The whole intent and spirit of the law is to ensure that the terms that's being used in protected classes have a voice and opportunity to participate. I worry a lot about unintended consequences and making a body more political as a result. For me, it's important that people sit here because they deeply care about education, and so again, it's like however you draw, there's going to be some drawbacks, I think, potentially, and so I think really being thoughtful, getting lots of input is going to be important. That we meet the spirit of the law, but protect the quality of school boards, where again people are here for the residents of the zone. Okay. Thank you.
Joanne. Joanne.
Oh, yeah.
Some minutes.
First of all, to the board, to members of the community, Willie Mims, Education Chair, East County NACP, and to Superintendent Meyer. I understand this is your last day here, from the last board meeting. So I wanted to wish you the best of luck. And then just don't forget me. How
could she ever?
And I hope you find a couple of people like me wherever you go.
Give the Google Maps to mountains.
Oh, yeah.
And go visit her there.
But I wanted to say that, I have really not looked at your maps. Are your maps online?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at pre-map stage now, Willie.
Yeah, so, I want to make sure that, I heard, when I walked in, I heard about the gerrymandering. But I wanted to talk about, you said, don't make things look political, but we must ensure that there's a diversity in the construction of the maps. And that, and while the maps are being constructed, you have to be careful about having 2 or 3 board members in the same precinct. That is become problematic. So I'm not sure where you folks live at, but I'll be looking though, once those maps came out, your address, to make sure that there's nothing wrong around here. So my concern is also that, again, it's the gerrymandering issue that seems to come to light whenever it comes to redrawing the maps, and who's being kicked to the curb, So hopefully there'll be a fairness in this process that will include all of the Mount Dell Unified School District, and not let one part of the district be slapped upside the head. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you. Okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing. And thank you. We'll move on to 16.5, related issue, public hearing on an adoption of resolution number 18/19-64, resolution authorizing request for waiver of the requirement that the establishment of trustee areas and adoption of a by-trustee area election process be submitted to the electors as set forth in Education Code sections 5019, 5020, 5021, and 5030.
As I said earlier, Madam President, this relates to only the fact of changing your election process from at-large to trustee. Not the trustee areas, not electing the trustees. It's simply seeking a state board waiver of eliminate what I call a duplicative election. And it's expensive and it has other drawbacks to it of a litigation nature, and I'll just leave it at that. I was in the, let me say this also, I'm the one who sent out, Dr. Meyer we drafted a memo for Dr. Meyer that she signed, and we sent to the bargaining units and to various school site councils and some other committees. We translated that into Spanish, and the DLAC folks considered it. I know that for a fact. I had conversations with representatives of Medea concerning whether or not there should be another election. I don't know if Nita's going to comment tonight or not, but hopefully they understood what the process is on this particular issue, that this is just one small part of the larger process. But it's important because what it does is it focuses the process on you creating trustee areas and getting those in place before the November 2020 election. With that, I turn it over to the public hearing.
Okay, so this is another public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. If there's any public that would like to say something, feel free to come forward.
I'm apparently convinced the folks I talked to.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve the resolution?
Yeah, after you
So
close
I
the public
close
hearing.
public hearing. And now we will take a motion for the resolution. So we need a motion for the resolution, right? Or not?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. I move to approve resolution number 18/19-64.
Second. Okay, we have a first and a second, and we will go to the vote. And that passes 4001. Okay. 16.6, Mount Diablo Unified School District Facility Master Plan. I think we have our presentation. Is that correct?
Good evening. We'll just need a little moment to set up. Okay.
Sure. All right. Are we ready? Good evening, President Durkee, members of the board, Superintendent Meyer. My name is Walter Estate, and I'm with LPA. I'm the Director of Education. I'm an architect, and I'm here with Andy Pickens, who is an Educational Facilities Planner, and we both represent the San Jose studio for LPA. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight. As you know, we've been working on this for quite some time now, and this is our last scheduled board meeting, so we're excited to be here. And we want to go through a few things tonight. We have an agenda here. We were here back on May 29th, and we presented a little bit of what you see here tonight to you. You guys had made some recommendations, and so we'll just summarize that so you kind of see where we came from. Secondly, we went back and met with the planning committee 2 times, and so we'll talk about some of the activities we did there and the outcomes. And then we'll actually have some of your staff will come up and talk about those results and how those decisions were made and what the thinking was behind those. And then finally, we'll talk about the next steps. Andy, she's speaking behind me. Is going to jump in.
Evening again. So just as Walter mentioned, just a reminder where we left off the last time we presented to you all. You know, going through the whole master plan document, going through the contents of the website with you. We'll save that conversation as we went over it last time, but it really culminated at reviewing the stakeholder priorities and noticing the large overlap between all of the various groups that we met with, large overlap between the scope categories surrounding modernization, repair, and site utilities, basically the scope that came from the needs assessment. Scope 5, which is the multi-use rooms, student union, and food service improvements. So I'll just back up for a second to set this up a little bit. Scope 0, that modernization, repair, and site utilities, that's the need, the repair. Everything else
is the vision, the educational program vision. You know, taking the schools not just from being the landlord, making the buildings of usable nature, but really implementing that educational program vision. So again, those overlapping priorities around modernization and repair, the multi-use rooms, student union and food service scope, and also security and safety and security, scope number 10. Other priorities mentioned, presented to you is the immediate needs that were identified by M&O and technology infrastructure district-wide. So being the really the need to upgrade the capacity, the backbone of the technology infrastructure itself, as being a separate, you know, from just student devices and in-classroom technology. But really getting that backbone working before you can focus on the devices themselves. So after presenting that information to you all, you came up with this list of priorities that pretty much aligned very nicely with what the stakeholders' voices echoed. So your list there identified the need to prioritize the immediate needs by M&O at about $4 million, that $25 million for technology infrastructure backbone district-wide. It identified, you know, yes, recognizing that full scope of the modernization, repair, and site utilities at about $490 million. And the safety and security district-wide at 17.2, and adding HVAC, addressing that MUR component, adding HVAC to the multi-use rooms at the elementary and middle school sites, which our estimates were around $14.6 million. We also had a conversation then taking this into an implementation phase around the funding. How do we take it from these big numbers and then make it an actionable plan? You know, looking at your potential, your total potential funding on hand, $170 million, and then we like to recommend you lop off 1/3 of that off the top just to save it for those unknown costs, escalation as you don't know when these projects may hit, various unknowns, so reserving 1/3 of that for those unknowns. So looking at a number of about, you know, if you want to get nitty gritty, it's about $113 million, but for the prioritization, kind of this large, high level of a master plan, we're looking at about $115 million to allocate to projects. So since we met with you on May 29th, developed those priorities, you know, we saw that $490 million really blew the budget, or really was, you know, outweighed your available funding, and you wanted more detail. You know, how can we break that down into something a little more digestible, a little more actionable? So we met twice with the planning committee, our district leadership committee, to help define that before coming here tonight. So the purpose of this summary is to provide the thought process that the planning committee took to prioritize those projects. And it's not that they're set in stone. Of course, you have the ultimate decision, and we can have a discussion about what their findings and their priorities following this presentation or towards the end. I'll also note that the dollars represented here, and as we prioritize projects, it's really to develop this design to budget for a scope of work. So it's not saying that this is exactly what the contractors are going to come in at with their bids, but we're saying here's a design to budget that then you can use for HVAC, etc. So to recap those planning committee meetings, again, we started off with the priorities that you had all established at that May 29th meeting. So the immediate needs, technology infrastructure, safety and security, adding HVAC to the MURs, elementary and middle school sites. District leadership group also added in HVAC to the adult education and district support sites at the dollar amount that was identified within the Scope 0 category. So as we started digging into Scope 0, we saw, you know, there's about $4 million when you add up the HVAC identified costs within the needs assessments for adult education facilities and the district support sites.
So rather than getting too fine-grained with that number, we thought, and the facilities department corroborated that 4 million is a good, again, design to budget for those sites. So that brings the total of what we've called established priorities to about 64.8 million. And then we have this other piece sitting in front of us of that still 490 million for that modernization, repair, and site utilities scope. Oh yes, and so what you see in front of us here, just as a help visual aid, the board you saw it the last time, it's folded in half, so we're not totally blocking community view. And so we've preloaded the board with a single piece representing that $64 million in need there at the bottom, and then our line for 115 million.
It looks so tiny.
It's all relative, right? So as the planning committee met the first time, how do we go about narrowing down this very massive scope? And their focus really was, the root of Measure J, which focused on health and safety, making a noticeable, meaningful change for all sites. So rather than spreading the funding out too thinly across the whole district, making, again, that noticeable, meaningful change, and establishing some kind of feature projects across the sites. So something that can be visible, that can be celebrated by the school, by the community, something to get the community excited about Mount Diablo Unified.
So at our first meeting on the 11th, we looked at refining that modernization scope, right? It's $490 million, it's a large number. How do we refine that down and look at that so that you can start making some decisions on what projects might move forward? What we had done is we had taken all the scope categories, and I'll review those in a minute, but they're the different scopes of ADA access, of HVAC upgrades, of sidewalk repairs and play fields and those kind of things. And we broke that up into small chunks, and those chunks were elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and then other sites. And what we found working with the planning committee was that we needed to define it more. We had to look at a greater, just a more refined process. And so what you have in front of you is a spreadsheet that is, I call it yellow, you may call it orange, but it looks like this. And so what we did here is we took that $490 million scope, and this actually, be technical, kind of goes like this, nice long spreadsheet for us. And so we took that $490 million scope and we broke that up by school site. And so what you see before you is on the left-hand side of the column, you have the school site, and you can see it's elementary, middle, high school, adult ed, district support projects. And then if you read across, you'll see that there are scope categories running all the way across. Okay, these scope categories start with A, labeled as A, then go B10, B20, C10, 20, all the way through to G40 and P. Okay, so I'll just kind of run through those quickly. When you look at A, that's substructure, so that's some repairs and foundations and things like that. The second B10 is about ramps and handrails for ramps, so it's an ADA scope. B20 is an exterior finish scope, and that scope is basically looking at the shell of the building, so it might be stucco, wood siding, windows, skylights, those repairs of that. B30 is roofing. Then C1020 is door and hardware. We combined a few here. C10, 20, and 30 is interior construction, interior stairs and finishes, interior finishes. D10 we confusingly call conveying, but that's actually like elevators, wheelchair lifts, those kind of things. And then you go through D20 through D50 and you've got plumbing, mechanical, HVAC, and electrical. You go to the E's, you have equipment, and the equipment is things like kitchen equipment, Just different kinds of equipment that might be fume hoods, those kind of things that might be in classrooms. Furnishings is a similar category. There's some special construction and demolition, and so that I'd have to look at every single site to know exactly what that is. It totals actually to be a fairly small number. Roadways is what you'd think roadway repairs that are usually interior to a site, not a city roadway or something like that. There's parking lot repairs, resurfacing, striping, those kind of things. Sidewalks. Then you've got hard courts and play fields. So those are repairs to those types of spaces. Irrigation is G2050, site utilities, and then you've got site electrical utilities. So those are site utilities, it's going to be gas and water, sewer. Site electrical utilities is the electrical services. And then there's a funny little category there. P is professional services, and you can kind of disregard that for now. There's only one item in there at $15,000, and that was from some additional investigation. So if you look at that, if you look at those numbers all the way across the last line, you see a $593 million number. That's the modernization scope, that 00 scope. Now, what that doesn't reflect is some projects that are ongoing and some things that are already funded. So that translates to about $490 million. And so that's when we say 490 in this presentation, that's the modernization scope we've identified to repair projects within the district. Okay? So what we did.
Can I just ask you about that? 490? Yes. So I see a total of 446, and then I see a total that's times 1.33.
Yes.
To be the 593?
Yes, and so the 446 is the actual, the numbers you see here are construction costs. We multiply it by 1.33 to get the project costs. So that includes those contingencies and escalations and things that Andy talked about. Because as we don't know when these projects will take place, so if it takes place in 5 years, we keep about 30% in there. Yes.
Soft costs.
Oh, it is a soft cost.
So it's just the 446 is less than 490, and that's because some things were already funded. Is that what you said?
Right. It's the 593 basically. Some things are already funded, so we deducted that out, and that's where we have the $490 million number. Okay. And there's the numbers are a little bit off, and it has to do with a lot about the percentages and the way the spreadsheet works and how things are working there. So what we did then is, we have the total cost by site, but then the planning committee looked at this and asked us to refine it even more, and they looked at what do we need to do in the district to repair and refresh each school site. So what we did is on the right-hand side, in the first orange column you see, we took all the orange scopes that the committee said this is what we need to repair and refresh each school site. So that included ADA issues, which would be the ramps and stairs and the conveying. It also includes the exterior finish. So that's to paint and to do repairs to windows and all those things. The shell, roofing, of course, to keep the roofs in good repair. And then to really make an impact and a kind of a refresh and a fresh look inside the classroom, we selected all the interior construction and interior finish categories. Then we looked at all the plumbing categories. A lot of those were related to ADA issues with ADA sinks and those kind of things. And then finally the irrigation. Big issue, of course, is that we don't have any irrigation, keep the landscape up, and make buildings have to basically curb appeal. So on this side, what you see is a refined scope based on just those categories that give the schools a real sort of nice curb appeal and look as though they're repaired and refreshed. So it's a new look for those schools. That total cost is $258 million. So that refined scope.
Where's the 258?
You see here, it's the first column, the bottom of the first column.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you explain again what that is? I mean,
It's these ones that are the same color.
All the
it's
orange
just all the
column
yellows.
total.
Okay.
So out of all the scope categories, the planning committee selected the ones that would give you a sort of a new look or repair or refresh to the existing campuses. And just that scope is $258 million across all the sites. And this slide just represents each one of those scope categories and the total of $258 million.
Can I ask, are those the needs over 10 years? Because I know.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, all the numbers we're talking about are the need over 10 years.
Because when we look school site by school site and you have the timeline, a lot of the schools seem like they had, only a few needs in the 1 to 3 year timeline, but then out in year 9 or 10 there was a big spike.
Correct.
So if you were to take away year 10, can you get to a smaller number just based on the timeline?
Yes, you can. So the assessment is based on the different scopes and their end of useful life. So
Right.
if a piece of mechanical equipment has a life of, say, an interior piece has a life of 20 years, when that 20 years comes up within that 10-year time frame, they're going to call to replace it.
Right, I understand why that needs to be there in the 10 years timeline, but as we're trying to set priorities for the next 2 to 5 years, we maybe don't need that funding just yet. Right?
That's correct. You may not need it, but
we will need it then.
Yes, but you will need it at some point over that 10 years. And so we only have a certain amount of funding, and as each site, you hire architects, and each site, they look at each site, they will design to a certain number, and that number will be used in terms of each site and how much dollars goes to each site.
So this 258 is over the 10 years.
Correct. So on this next slide, just to remind you, we've got our target is 115 million. That's our available funding. The established board priorities that we just showed you on the board here of $64 million leaves us a total amount of 50 million available funding on this current measure. Okay. Now, of course, I just told you we refined this down to from 490 million down to 258 million. And we're going to have some of your staff come up now and talk about their thoughts on how they decided to refine these numbers. And then at the end, we'll come back and sort of talk a little bit about sort of the overall summary of how those were defined. All right? A lot of information tonight.
Right. May I ask a question?
Sure.
In regards to, I was looking at a high school, and there was $1 million for play fields, and then there was $5 or $6 million for PE fields or athletic fields. Can you explain to me what play fields would be at a high school?
It would be on a site-by-site basis. We would need to know which school.
Okay. It was probably College Park High School. And it was when I was looking at one of the detailed online pictures. So it's obvious that you can't answer that for me right now. So it's probably a trivial question. Well, it said play fields, and then it also said, PE improvements, which was a much larger number, 5 times the amount.
Was that in a different scope, maybe other than the scope 00?
Yes.
Okay, so that was, I believe the College Park, I'd have to look at the site plan, the master plan for it, but that would be anything above and beyond that identified in scope 00, the needs assessment. So there could be, in College Park, there were additional improvements that we supplemented on top of the needs assessment scope.
So that's different than hard services, which would, well, let's put it this way. The most of the high schools have an interior
Speaking of my
student.
no.
Most of the high schools have an interior, or exterior hard surface area for the students to congregate. For example,
quad.
College Park, a quad. College Park and Concord High School come to mind easily, as well as Ignatia Valley High School. Is that considered one of the play fields, or is that a hardscape?
That's a hardscape.
Okay.
And I would say at that school, the backfields that are not baseball, football, or soccer, you know, the backfields that abut up to YMCA and the softball fields,
Right.
those could be play fields, practice fields, PE fields of grass.
One of the difference between the modernization scope and play fields, those are actually repair of play fields. When you look at PE improvements in the other scope categories, scope category 1 through 15, that could be things like additional locker rooms, gyms, other PE improvements. So it's not as if we're building play fields and then adding more play fields to the campus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, on College Park specifically, we have a new gymnasium with locker rooms, batting cages, and practice field improvements, as well as additional visitor bleachers and press box. So that would be, the fields would be in, it's nice that it's online, but it's so that would be split between scope categories 6, physical education facility improvements. That would be the structures, the press box, the gymnasium. And then scope category 13, exterior play spaces, play fields, and hard courts would catch, I believe, the batting cages and practice field improvements that we supplemented on top of EMGs.
So the structures are the PE, and then the play fields are
the play fields.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So before we go on, I also feel the need for clarification on a couple things since the last meeting. So I'm really just getting caught up with you. So we're trying to get caught. So this binder that you gave us is the facility condition assessment. That's kind of what you're referencing.
An abbreviated facility condition assessments on every single page. That lives electronically within the district, so they can provide that to you.
Okay. So in one place there's the term direct expansion systems. On page it's Ayers Elementary.
That's probably related to plumbing.
Okay.
To a water heater, boiler, or something like that.
Okay. And then these are kind of cool actually. You look at them, they're side by side, and so there's a basis identification of immediate needs, right? Which are by building system, is what it was titled. And so are they, when we say immediate, are they equally weighted? So immediate need, or is it just within that school, this is more immediate than that, or is it like, if we wanted to say, because interestingly, all those immediate needs add up to about 4.5 million. And it's a similar number to, what I think M&O came up with. So I'm just trying to see, is there any relationship between that, or what would that make? Would that be something to another way to
There's a
carve
slight
it?
relationship to it, but the immediate needs called out in the assessment are typically the needs that are going to start out either in year 0 or 1. And so the M&O needs are site utility infrastructure needs and other issues that need to be repaired on different campuses.
So that was my next question is, I think in the last report that this little booklet you gave us, there's I can find it now, but there was a little bit of a breakdown of the M&O needs, identified needs. Yeah, here it is. But for the 4,000, so it says Meadow Homes Elementary is the number, College Park High School, just by site. But do we know, it'd be helpful to kind of, maybe that's what you're going to have staff talk about, but it's like, what is that in each of those sites? So, because you're kind of in the proposal building that in as something that would be part of a priority. But I think it would be helpful for us to know. What are you gonna do with $4 million?
Not a whole lot. Good evening, members of the board, President Durkee, Dr. Meyer. Those immediate needs are our sewer system. Some of those have been identified, like our gas mains. Some of these have been already addressed, but those are immediate needs that we currently have identified in our immediate needs. So those are the things that we know we need right now to address. One is an Olympic High School. There's one there. Ignacio Valley High School. Those are some immediate needs, and we've done some of the work ourselves, but we know there's some additional work needs to be done on those.
So it's mostly utility
Yeah.
related?
And is there any overlap between those and the ones that are listed in the binder by site, do you know?
There are some overlap in there. Those were just immediate ones that LPA brought to our attention that we know we needed those right away, and we've been addressing some of those issues right now currently.
So define immediate, is that like?
Some things, say like Ignacio Valley High School, where we know we had a gas line issue out there, and that's immediate need. Some of our other site sewer systems that we know that are failing, that's immediate needs, and those are.
It really is urgent.
Yes, yes. Good.
So those needs are all things that are kind of less visible to the general public, say, like sewer lines and things like that.
Exactly. Those are not the things that you would see arbitrarily, but those are things that we know and we know that we sewer system are failing throughout the district, and some of those sites that looking at our work order system and talking to the supervisors of each department and kind of define some what areas that we really need to address right away.
So they might become visible.
Right. I was going to say that.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not talking about things like we had students, from the softball field at Whiteby High about twisted ankles. That you're not talking about that.
Softball field, we're talking about
sewer
immediate. Yes, those type of things.
Okay.
Storm systems that are failing that we know we have issues at, or like I said, most of our facilities are 50+ years old, so we know we have some immediate needs throughout the district. Okay.
So for our bond experts up here, I wonder a little bit about the use of the term repairs. Using bond money. I thought I have seen that it's the bond bills, repairs. So upgrading, improvements, kind of things. I don't know. Yeah.
Measure and does use the word repair. It does.
What about measure C and measure J? Somehow it's in my head and it's not, it's really not, I'm not an expert by any means, but I just have that thought process that you can't, you have to be, these are, funds are not intended for repairing things that are supposed to be maintained.
I think the word routine is the word that's used, that bonds should not be used for routine maintenance. Repair would probably fall into that category, although there might be things that are broken that you just would not repair, and they wouldn't be necessary to the functioning of the school. You just perhaps get rid of it. So, but you're corrected. Routine maintenance should be in the category unless it's written explicitly
So,
for repair.
as I'm understanding you, Mrs. Durkee, you're saying routine maintenance. Is routine maintenance something that can be accomplished in a day or a month? That's a good question. Because I would not, some of these projects, when you're talking about sewer systems, I wouldn't necessarily call that a routine maintenance. It's almost to the point possibly of a modernization. We think of modernization as inside the classroom and a swoopy building, but having a viable sewer system is.
Yeah, right. I think part of my point is to think about carefully, about how let's get our semantics straight. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm talking about routine maintenance or repairs or whatever, but I kept hearing the word repairs, and that just made me wonder. And again, I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, all the scope categories, all the different breakouts fall under the modernization category. So they're all considered really a modernization. that is the need currently. We talked a 10-year need. So I'm not a bond expert, I'm just an architect. But, and I'll let someone else speak to the bond, but, and so now.
Thank you for indulging me with that.
Good evening, President Durkee, board members, Dr. Meyer. I'm not going to be up here very long because I'm going to have our planning committee come up and share some information on the thought process behind prioritizing that remaining $50 million. And just to, so that we're all on the same page, that $50 million that we're talking about on the top line, that is from slide number 12 in your presentation. And that is part of that $258 million that was narrowed from the scope 00. And we'll continue to kind of bring back the numbers just so that we're all on the same page because there's so many out there. And with that, I'd like to first bring up or have the committee start coming up, and Mr. Ferrante from our CBOC will be the first one to come and share some information on a little bit of the history on the uses of the past bonds and the rationale behind that.
Notice how she picked the old guy for the history.
Chair.
Good evening. Short timer. So, a little bit of brief history. Measure A focused on middle and elementary schools. Elementary's got the multi-use rooms. Middle schools got their mini gyms. And then there was a lot of side work done. But Measure A didn't have a lot of money. It was only $90 million. And we had 2002 Measure C. Well, that did a blitzkrieg on the entire district. We got all of our electrical systems upgraded, got a lot of internet work upgraded. 2010 did even better on that. Focused again on the elementaries and middle schools, not a fair amount, but not as much work on the high schools, because the elementary schools, especially in the Bay Point area, needed a lot of work. I still remember the night when school was opening up and Dick Nickel was going crazy because the bathrooms weren't ready at Short Acres. They had to bring in a whole bunch of porta potties. That was not a good night. 2010 Measure C, we put a lot of money into the high schools and not so much into the middle or the elementaries. But again, backbones got upgraded, electrical systems got upgraded. 2010, that was 9 years ago. These things don't last. A lot of focus on the middle, on the high schools, a lot of focus on the high schools, and a fair amount on the elementaries. The middle schools got kind of skipped over. So, going to look a little more at the middle schools. I think that's it for the old guy on the history part.
Okay, so that's where we come in. So we had to go ahead and take down that 258 million down to 50 million. So there's many ways to do that. We looked across the columns, which ones could we choose? We looked down at the different schools. But what we ultimately decided as a planning committee is that we'd like to focus on two things. And the first one aligns with your board priority, which is making meaningful, substantive, noticeable changes at the schools. And we'd like to focus on the middle schools. As we just heard, the high schools got most of the money in the last bond, so as we're following that cycle through, that seemed to make sense. And it also sets the money equally across the district, so really every part of the district will have access, and it won't just be focused in one particular area. But the second part that we really felt was important was the focus on health and safety. So for that, we decided that another priority for us would be from that $50 million would be to do all of the ADA improvements, which we are required to do anyway, so it seems to be a good use of money at this time.
Good evening. Thinking out loud with you a little bit more, we had a lot of discussion about the middle schools and why the middle schools, and I think they shared some of the basic foundational thinking about it. And I want to speak to the career pathways work, which we are, as you well know, working toward expanding to all levels. And we recognize programmatically the need for our, even our elementary, but certainly our middle school students. We need to start earlier and we need to do more for our students to start thinking about the potential of career pathways. So this would allow us, some of this visioning would allow us to move really in that direction. We have the two stages. One is the more immediate stage, which would be the enhancements for the project learning, faculty collaboration, makerspace, and then as we vision going forward for STEAM, STEM, innovation labs, etc. You have a spreadsheet, a chart also with some of the feature projects which are listed. These are at a total of $265,221,000, and these are really our vision. These, I think, are typical of what we see going forward, where we need to be. They're not. It's not so much a wish list; it's really a needs list as we go forward in the career pathways work, and which would involve some of the different programs that you see here, reconfiguring the classrooms, providing science, arts, CT, and elective programs, space for that. It includes many areas. So thinking ahead, that $265,221 million is going to further refine and align with our potential future funding, we would think, through other bond measures going forward. So that's one way to look at this, and that was very much a part of our thinking, is where are we today, what is it we really need right now, and what is it we're going to need as we go forward in the planning we already have in place, thinking ahead and visioning for the future for our students.
Good evening, President Durkee, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Meyer. One thing I do remember as a, speaking outside of an employee of the district, but as a community member and a homeowner here in Concord, when we painted El Dorado Middle School, what the reaction was in the community and what aesthetic appeal that had. And we had not seen that in quite some time. So I usually think back to that moment, but I advocated for the middle schools especially because it is such an important transitional period for our students going from elementary into high school. And when you take a look, and I've been in most of our middle schools for the last 8 years as either a community member, a parent, or just as an employee of the district. I think you already know if we go to certain schools, they have ran their life. It is time that we put the investment into the middle schools because I find it to be so important in that transitional period. And some of the schools that I've been visiting, especially up in, say, Pine Hollow or some of the others in Oak Grove or even to Foothill, and I'm in the classrooms with the students and working with the teachers and talking to the kids, so you can see the conditions of the school if they are. So we have just reached that certain point in time that I think it's time to make the investment in the middle schools for sure. So other than that, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, just to bring it back again to the numbers and just so we're all on the same page. So what we did was, actually LPA did in helping us refine this, the 258 million in that scope 00 was divided up into 2 levels. So you're going to see level 1 and level 2. Level 1 speaks to the use of the 115 million, which is essentially measure J less that 1/3 that we have to say for contingencies. So level 1 would fund the established priorities, which is that 64.8 million, and then a portion of this scope 00, which is at the 50 million, which was the planning committee also talked about a little right now, which gets us to the 115. So now this next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Richard, and he's going to talk about level 2, which is our future plans to fund the remaining portion of that scope 00. And so he'll talk about the need for that.
Good evening again. I want to say something a little off topic, just to say something that I would like to personally thank Dr. Myers for giving me the opportunity to work here. I really, really appreciate it. You'll be deeply missed. Secondly, this is a little, I hate to bring this up in the middle of a presentation. This is for the O'Sullivan family, which is dear friends of mine. I would like to wish them condolences for them and their daughter and their loss. Excuse me.
We're gonna talk, I'll have Melanie, she can speak to this a little better than I can.
Good evening, President Durkee, members of the board, Dr. Meyer. As we stated, level 1 and level 2 essentially are the same priorities, those category 0. Level 1 just means that we feel that we have the funding to handle those items currently, and then level 2 is the remaining items, but we would need future funding for. So basically those items would be roofs, which are ongoing. As you know, we're a couple of years into our roofing program. We've got about 5 more years left. Exterior finishes, which is walls, windows, paint, that type of thing. Interior finishes, basically update the classrooms, flooring, ceiling, casework, walls, plumbing and irrigation, which is, as we know, desperately needed throughout the district. So again, it would take what we're doing, assuming you guys like the plan that we're presenting at the middle schools, and doing the remainder of the sites with elementary and high school outside of the safety items and the board priorities. I think that's about it.
Switch the slide.
Okay.
So level 2 brings us up to the 258 million, or
Correct.
is it the 265? Going on here.
258.
258.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in addition to that, now we have the next list, and these are the, in addition to that remaining $207 million, we also have this list that is included in the full master plan list of needs. And to be really clear that there were all of the meetings at the school and all of the facility meeting plans, and then sort of sites made wish lists, but these are not wishes. They're actually needs that align with the instructional vision for us to move forward as a district. So we prioritized down, and we looked at the original list, which were about $1.5 billion, and sort of whittled it down to this one, which is about $265 million. And again, those were focused on the areas of making sure that they were accessible to everybody, and that they did have a lasting impact on the schools and the students therein, and also focused on safety and accessibility. So the first one is parking and drop-off improvements at the elementary schools, and if you ever try to come in here at certain times of day, please help with this one quickly. The next one would be focusing on our STEAM programs and our music and innovation programs at the elementary schools, followed by science, arts electives, and innovation lab at the middle and high schools. In addition, those would be in those needs in order to move us forward again. We definitely need enhancements at our 3 magnet schools, which would be Holbrook, Lynn, and Sun Terrace. We know about those. Those things are going well. And again, we believe that by enhancing those, it really will help us keep the kids in the district by providing quality programs there. And we also want to get an all-district theater at Mount Diablo High School. And again, that's not just something for the students at Mount Diablo, but it's centrally located and could be used literally by every student in this district and their families. And since kids matriculate through, we think it would be an excellent use for our funds.
Would that be similar to the creative arts building that Pittsburgh has?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the last 2 items on the list is, lunch shelters at elementary and middle schools.
Which is what the kids want.
Yes, exactly. Because typically there's just not enough room or enough seating area for our students. And in the last 2 districts that I've been in, I was part of the design team to design the all-student center in Monte Vista High School, as well as on the design team to design Davis Senior High School at Davis Joint Unified. The reason we did that is because it created a culture and a climate in the school. It brought kids together and stayed them still productive. During lunch day, it also did redo the cafeterias as a part of that. But I just visited the Google Cloud headquarters in Sunnyvale, so it kind of reminds me a lot of this, which is exactly the same kind of format and model. But the all-student centers we've seen have really brought the kids together, and it's really created this really culture and climate in the school that makes them so much more productive, which is what they're going to see in the high-tech companies or pharmaceutical companies or any other company if they go to the outside once they go into the workforce. So that was the thought behind this.
with that, we just want to summarize one last time. Hopefully it's fairly clear to everyone where we ended up, where the district ended up. All right. So just to summarize a little bit, I'd like to kind of go through the numbers one more time. So what we did, the PC meeting did, was look at two priorities, level 1 and level 2 priorities. Level 1 is basically the available funding you have right now, $115 million. That's represented there by the HVAC at the MURs, elementary, middle, adult, and the support sites, the technology infrastructure backbone, safety and security, some immediate M&O needs that Richard spoke to, repair and refresh at all the middle schools, and then a district-wide ADA, stairs and handrails at all the sites. So that first level 1 priority, that aligns with the $115 million in funding, so that's this column here. Then we just talked about the level 2 priorities. The level 2 priorities are two things. It's the remaining $207 million that we prioritized at one of our planning committee meetings. And in addition to that, it's some future projects that are a portion of the total need of educational program enhancements. And so those are the things that we talked about, where we're talking about STEAM spaces, science, arts electives, lunch shelters, student centers, those projects. And that number there is the $265 million. And I'll advance one slide. That's this number here. So to go back, we have level 1 priorities of $115 million, and then level 2 priorities for future funding are $207 million plus the $265 million. So the total for level 2 priorities is $473 million. Are we making sense so far?
So that 473 is in addition to the first 115.
Correct.
Not that it's bringing the total to that number.
Correct. The planning committee wanted to look, and it's not necessarily prioritized, but it's the level 2 projects that could be done.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, you may.
Under the 115, the level 1, safety and security. So I know we have a person doing an assessment around safety issues in our district, and I don't know if there's any connection to that, or the finding from that person in that process. But I guess it's just more specifically what kinds of things are in there. Are we seeing those somewhere?
That scope captures the scope category number 10, safety and security, from the full master plan vision, which is fencing, entry plazas, and signage and wayfinding. So whatever comes out of the safety assessment that's being performed, again, that is something that could be rolled into that design 2 budget. You know, if they come back saying windows XYZ at these locations need to be looked at, then that's something that you would address within, if it's at a middle school, it'd be part of that level 1 priority. So it could be rolled into multiple projects.
Sure that that's on the radar. So. And I had a different understanding of fencing. I was in the old mode of chain link fencing. Is the fencing that's considered as fencing for this upgrade the post fencing?
It's a decorative metal tube steel fencing, which is a higher cost than a chain link fencing. So that provides the district with some flexibility. It could capture things like electronic buzzers to enter the front door if that's how the ultimate design wants to be for a site or another. So yes.
So it would be the entire site, and we have some fencing being done this summer. Is that fencing going to be the new fencing, or is it supposed to be?
Those costs haven't been pulled out of the needs assess, or the facility, master plan numbers. The numbers represented here in scope category 10, basically for the fencing, it takes that linear footage of those yellow lines you'll see drawn on the master plan diagrams and applying the cost to that for the fencing portion.
In other words, I need to figure it out myself. Okay.
Typically, we don't fence an entire, just arbitrarily fence an entire site. We typically try and fence between buildings. You know, we're trying to avoid that look of campus that's fenced as a secure campus.
So you're looking at enclosing, the instructional area of the site versus the perimeter of the site.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd want the fields and the play fields being used on the weekends and maybe after school, so you could open those gates up at night if you chose to do that. But during the school day, you want the campus secure and with a single point of entry into the site and out of the site. So that's kind of how we represent that.
So if that fencing is for in the instructional area, how do the students access the PE area? So there's access gates.
No, yes, there's access gates. So typically, when school opens up in the morning, the gates are open. Everybody can enter into the campus from different areas. During lunch, they can open the gates. They can use the play fields, for PE and all those things. Once those things are done, we can close them up. So there's some options there, and it really depends on how the district decides, the school sites decide how to operate the campus.
So that's the 17 million for safety and security. That's what you're discussing right now. So 17 million would cover fencing for all of our sites, or are you talking about just the middle school?
That's district-wide.
Wow. And then does it also include, like people ask about, security cameras and things like that, or are we just talking about fencing in that?
That scope is just the fencing, entry plazas and signage. I believe security cameras are captured within that 25 million in technology infrastructure backbone.
Oh, okay.
Presented in a different board meeting by members of the district.
This slide finally is just to represent those feature projects that we talked about. That's the 265 million that I referred to in the prior slide. So that's our presentation tonight. Hopefully, I know there's a lot of information, a lot of numbers. Hopefully the thermometer helps to explain some of how we prioritize, how the planning committee prioritized, and how we reached that $115 million threshold. And then the district now has some additional level 2 priorities that they could look at when funding becomes available for that. And I think with that, I think Rose is going to close for us tonight.
Good, because I had a question for her. When we do a program like this, do we have our own kind of insurance? Because this is big. And I know my son-in-law does this for corporations, and they have their owner-controlled insurance program. So if anything goes wrong, do we do anything like that in schools, or a RAP program where we kind of have our own self-insuring pool in case something happens? No?
You mean in terms of a project as it's developing, an actual construction project, or are you talking, or is it the
well, like
plan?
the whole first 115 million. What happens if, is it just regular insurance, or do we have a pool of insurance that just covers those projects?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have property and liability insurance, and we have excess insurance. So we are covered. Yeah, yes, definitely. Excuse me. Okay, so with that, next steps are, of course, is to approve the plan. But before we get to that point, we just wanted to reinforce that this is a living document. So this isn't meant that, what we're saying today, we're going to exactly do that. Things may change. Funding may change. program priorities may change, facility needs may change. Tomorrow we may discover something that we didn't know today because of the age of our facilities as we're going through the modernization projects. So right now, by approving this, it just gives us a plan or a framework to go forward, especially in the first 2 years with this with this Measure J bond that we have. We just need that direction in order to start making plans. As you know, projects take a couple of years to ramp up and to actually get started. So, so we're just, needing to have that direction and to identify the priorities also for the community, just to say, this is what we're going to do now that the bond is passed and we have a plan that we're going to move forward with. And then, of course, the periodic and regular check-ins, where are we with the plan? What have we done? Have we done, most of level 1, a part of it? Why not? And do those check-ins regularly with you as well. And having said that, the thought is to bring back an approval to the board in the next couple of months to extend our agreement with LPA so that they can continue to help us at least for 1 more year with this facility master plan. They have terminated, pretty much they've exhausted their contract, they've done what they said they were going to do, and they're just going to refine some things and then turn over everything to us. But we just don't have the capacity to take this on at this time and to really continue to develop it. We believe that we've gotten to a point where we have a nice, first draft to be approved, but it still needs some refining in these next few months. And it may be that it doesn't require a full year, but we just want to go ahead and, just play it out for a year just to see where we go with this. But the plan would be for the district to definitely take it over, and then it becomes our document to manage. So, if there are any other questions?
Yes, sorry, I do have questions. So, in looking at the next steps, the 115 looked at the total 150 of Measure J minus the additional costs, right?
Yes.
But our Measure J bond, we clearly haven't sold the whole 150, right?
That's correct.
Right now, we've just sold 20.
Correct.
Okay, so of the 115, we've got to break that all the way down to less than 20 for the next few years, right? Because we're not going to sell again until 2023?
No, we just sold, I'm getting, COP we sold last year, we sold this one this year, so we're 2 years out, so 21 before we sell another one. So it was 2 years, 2 years out, and we have the COP. But what this is going to allow us to do is to cash flow the bond, because right now we were just doing the small increments until we had a plan in place, so we knew how much do we really need. Should we go out for 50? Do we need to go out for 100? And so now, once we have this in place, and we'll be able to structure those projects, what we can take on in the next few years, and then we'll be able to really structure the size of the coming bonds. So it's not going to be 20 million increments. It may, I don't know. It just depends on what, yeah.
So you'll be able to take a look at the scope of this 115 million level 1 priorities and set a timeline
Yes.
to propose back to us.
Yes.
And then we'll sell the bonds based on that timeline.
Yes.
Because all of these just feel immediate, like they're needed tomorrow, so,
They are,
it's one of
but
those
can we
things.
do, yeah.
Right.
We don't have the capacity to take them on.
Okay.
Ed? I have a challenging question to ask, a difficult question, so I'm going to have to ask it. I was intrigued by the Performing Arts Theater, I'm calling that I wouldn't see how you described it, for Mount Diablo High School. The
All district theaters, they called it.
You're right. And I'm just trying to recall if theater and performing arts is one of the pathway, the academies at Mount Diablo High School. And although it certainly could be woven into one of the academies. The other question that, and you have to understand, I attended a high school that had a huge theater, and I appreciate the benefits of it. My first thought that came to my mind was parking at Mount Diablo High School. They indicated that the theaters would hold, according to the vision plan that's in the one document, would seat 500. So if you figure 2 people to a car, that's 250 cars. Is there parking at Mount Diablo High School for
200 to 300 automobiles for an event. And then my next, in looking at the site plan, I can see that it's configured well. You've added the new kitchen amendments and then the eating area for students. So that was intriguing. So it really would change the view of Mount Diablo High School. My one challenge was when the statement was made that it would be for all of the district schools, which I do appreciate, but I know, I'll just say this, it would be a challenge for Northgate and for Ignacio Valley High School or College Park to, well, not so College Park because it's an easy way back way, to get to Mount Diablo High School. My one question was, had we considered, if we're looking at a large theater for all the schools, why not Loma Vista? Because there's extra parking there, it's accessible for all of the district schools, and I was just curious.
I'm going to defer this one to the planning committee because this came from, a lot of the feedback came from the planning committee. Do you guys want to comment on Mount Diablo, why the theater there, and comments on Loma Vista?
So first off, yeah, I'm a little prejudiced, it's my alma mater.
I know.
In terms of parking, there is a lot of parking there, but if you go 3 blocks down the street, there's all kinds of city parking, and it's free.
3 blocks down the street, you mean towards downtown?
Yes.
In the parking structure?
Yes, and there's
So
2
that would
parking
be-
structures there.
Right, a lot of walking at night.
Yeah.
Because most of the theater will be more used at night than.
I would assume so, yeah. In terms of location, it's relatively easy to get to. If we want to incorporate our Bay Point community, that's a very easy site to get to.
Right.
Loma Vista, there are no really well-developed streets getting into and or out of Loma Vista.
Well, maybe if we build a theater there.
Now we have to get the city of Concord on board to improve the streets, and good luck with getting the city of Concord to do anything. Was that politically incorrect? It was honest. But I think in terms of locale, Northgate has a nice mini theater. I've been there a couple of times.
It doesn't seat 500 though.
It does not, no, but it does seat, it looks like about 200. It is well constructed, it's relatively new compared to the rest of the district, and they do have a fair amount of parking there. So I think that the pick of the locale for Mount Diablo.
Opposite sides of the district.
Yeah, not only that, but if you're at YV, all you gotta do is come straight down Oak Grove, follow Oak Grove onto Market Street, up and down on the on-ramp, and boom, you're there. College Park, you come around the back way, go down Solana Way, you're there. So it's not a difficult site to get to.
And I would say, I don't know, if you went to the, excuse me, Mount Diablo graduation, and when I spoke to the kids about their concern with their reputation, I think Mount Diablo deserves something they can be really proud of and stand out for. So
I wholeheartedly agree. That's why I'm glad the stadium's getting repaired this year, because yeah, we need something like that.
And my questions weren't intended to.
No,
I
I didn't take it
that
that way.
I'm
Didn't
just
take it
thinking,
that way.
it's another plus, and
It's
they
just-
used to have a really good music program, and this might bring it back.
We had a phenomenal music program there when I was there, and my freshman year, we had a full-blown theater the size of the Aenean.
I think your first point, though, about the career pathways is important because there isn't a pathway that has anything to do with this.
As it stands right now, we lost all of our performing arts programs when the principal came in and decided that performing arts were not necessary for education, and she got rid of them all. That was not a move that was in the benefit of any student whatsoever.
So that's a discussion, is my point, and I think,
Yeah.
you know,
It
it's just
needs to
I'm
be-
saying it's a reality right now.
It
that
needs to be
schools
brought
don't
back.
have.
When parents from the Bay Point community came in at that time and said, my kid's in the band, but you no longer have a band, what do I do? Her response was, too bad. We'll
Right,
send them to
so-
another school. That's not the response I want to hear from principal.
So my point is though that in order to make that kind of a change, that's a pretty substantial change of which, you know, will have a big impact on the school. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, but I think you don't want to put the cart before the horse is all I'm saying. So,
Yeah,
you know, I guess my in terms of approving this plan, you know, maybe there's some flexibility on, you know, something that's so specific. And I think it would be lovely. I think there's a lot of arguments to have is, you know, great, everything that everybody said. But, you know, there's other work that has to be done, I think, and so I want to make sure that happens to support it. And so, yeah, that's my.
Is
and
it
that's
on
that
the
money
map?
down the road, right?
Yep.
We don't have to.
It's a long ways down the road. Is it on the existing map for Mount
It is not
Zion?
on the plan yet. We have a revision back in the office because it didn't come up, probably because it's not a pathway there. It didn't come up. It didn't come from the school as a need. So we do have a revision, and we can post that to the website instead. We can show it as an option, something that might provide the most flexibility with this is to have, you know, rather than specifying a specific location for this theater, just say all district theater, have that price, and maybe show some locations of where that may be possible so that you can make an informed decision later on when you're ready for that.
I mean, I think it would be great for Mount Diablo to have the opportunity to say what they think could be kind of, you know, something really special and unique. And maybe it's this, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. I do worry about the Michelle High School softball fields too. I mean, where does that, you know, come in to play as well? So.
And that question we've gotten from YB High softball, but also Mount Diablo softball and baseball fields. So those have been brought up as safety concerns. So that's where I'm wondering, is that in any of these plans to be done soon?
Yes, we've already have funding approved under measure. I'll let Melanie talk about that. Yeah.
Sorry, good evening again. So both the sites where we have some community concern over softball fields, we're in the process of working on those now. We have some funding already, and so that is actually will be before all of this stuff is happening. That's something that Richard and I are running together.
Is it turf or is it just repair?
Right now it's just repair.
Yeah.
We haven't had any necessary too in-depth conversation about going turf. However, that's something that we can get some cost and come back and present.
Yeah, it sounds like it has been attempted to repair kind of all along the last few years, and so I don't know if the level of repair you're talking about is a completely different level of repair, but I think that's why people are bringing up turf as could we explore those costs.
So one of the things that we have to look at is just because we go turf does not mean that we eliminate our go for ground squirrel issues. Also, in order to, there's different levels of turf and the expense obviously goes up. So maintaining what's there, dealing with the weather and everything we have in breeding season and all that, but that really is why at certain areas it is so bad, but we are treating, we treat on a weekly basis at our sites where it is extremely bad, like Ignacio Valley. Unfortunately, we can't treat more often than that, only because then we end up on top of ourselves and actually hindering the process instead of helping it. But we are out there on a daily basis and trying to make improvements. But we are planning for a larger scope repair.
Do you think what one of the students brought up was the idea of doing turf only on the grass area and then keeping the dirt?
So that actually kind of almost was a red flag because we would still have access underneath the turf from where we left it turf. So it's definitely something that we can look at again and then bring back to the board some more cost budgets if we wanted to look at going turf.
Thank you. One other thing to add to that, one of the biggest concerns with us with treating for gophers and ground squirrels with the California Healthy School Act, we're only allowed to use certain chemicals and products, so it makes it very challenging to try to address any of those things. We're doing everything we can do right now. The abide by the California Health to School Act, so we're kind of limited on what we can do. The same as, I know there's been previous ones up, parents and students up here earlier mentioned saying the same thing with the products we use for treating weeds and it. We follow those guidelines to the T, and we try to maintain those, but there's very limited to the products that we can use, and every time they put more restrictions on it, makes it even tougher to try to mitigate some of these things. So,
Snakes are very effective for gophers.
we're even looking at doing owl boxes and multiple things, try to do some of these things, try to.
Mr. Mims would appreciate that solution, won't you?
I actually had heard that, is it Cal State East Bay, the one that's, that they have installed, it's not owl boxes, it's raptor perches, I think is what it's called. Because owls apparently are at night, so they're not the right time for the gophers, but raptors is a different thing.
We're wide open to
they've
try
actually
everything at this point.
Implemented that, so maybe that'll be an example if it works for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Other thing that's interesting to me is the focus on middle schools. I mean, like you could say you could focus on anything. I would agree that we need to focus, but I guess I would just wonder if, there still aren't other things that, it's kind of like having a theme, I get, to really focus, but I don't know how other board members feel about it. It's just, if there's other specific projects, like what we were just talking about, that maybe should be addressed as well, if they're not already covered under safety or something, so. I just wanted to bring it up. I don't know if anybody else's thoughts are about the middle school.
Sounded like that was because the middle schools weren't done in the most recent Measure C.
But they did all get science
They
rooms, I
got
believe.
at least 2 science rooms, the double set up with the preparation area in the center. And in the 2002 Measure C, elementary schools and middle schools got a lot of classrooms, and I want to say we built over 100 classrooms, and I actually think we were closer to 200 classrooms because we eliminated all of the old barracks style things that were out at Shore Acres, and that, Shore Acres got, what were there, almost 16 classrooms out there?
Rio Vista got several too.
Right, so, but we also did classrooms at the high schools too, so now Diablo got some new classrooms. My recollection of the 2002 Measure C is we focused on the high school construction so that we could leverage more of the state matching funds, and through that process we picked up almost $100 million of additional construction that we could do. Now, I could be completely wrong in my numbers and be doing a Trumpism here, but I have this little sheet that kept track of the drawdown numbers. I don't think there may not be an advantage to focusing on the high dollar projects at this time because the state isn't offering matching funds. Is that correct? To a great extent that we would qualify for at this point.
Yeah, not until a new bond is passed by the state.
2020, I heard Mr. Schenke say, but I think there's going to be a lot of devil in the detail, and it's going to be a hard sell with voters. We're really going to have to work hard to pass that.
A lot of pent-up demand for that $13 billion, if it passes.
So, I guess from my perspective, all of our schools need it, regardless of their level. When we were looking at the high schools, the argument was every student will go through elementary to middle school to high school. You could say the same thing now. Every student will start at the elementary school and go to middle school.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, exactly, we need so much, that it's hard to, so, I mean, I just was making an observation, the planning committee kind of came up with that as a way to frame it or, focus, which I'm fine with. I don't have an objection. I know they need a lot, so I guess I was just kind of, like why that as opposed to something else, but it probably doesn't matter because we don't just don't have enough to do everything or even close to it, so.
Well, and we're forgetting that the safety feature will perhaps change the image of the entrance to the schools, which will be more inviting to folks.
And that's all.
Yeah, and that's all sites. So there are some things that are in the other categories that may affect the visibility and the perks for the high school.
This says that HVAC at MURs for elementary, middle, adults, and support. Do our high schools already have? I feel like our high schools don't have HVAC in the MURs or gyms.
No, they do not.
Is there a reason why we didn't include high schools here? I know we've had community-wide meetings with our congressmen at our high schools with the large fans blaring.
I would say our, and Richard knows this as well, our gyms are extremely hot and our students play, basketball and other games within there. And at the beginning of the year, it's very difficult for assemblies, etc. In the gyms, they're extremely hot. The North Gate has, the air condition that kind of goes throughout, but not in their gym. But it just seems cooler there. Just the position of where the gym is in the sun. But am I missing something, Richard? I know a couple of those gyms are pretty bad as far as heat.
They are.
College Park, Mount Diablo High.
They are, and one of the reasons why, when we were doing our assessment, talking with the group regarding high schools, that was one of the decisions made, was that at this time, since high schools got so much during the last group, we wanted to kind of focus on the middle schools and focus on those there to make sure, and elementaries, that they got EC in those areas versus high schools getting those at this time. So, you have a question?
Well, if you put the performing arts theater in, you're going to have to air condition it.
That is correct. That is.
And that touches on one other thing, not to, I don't want it to sound like I'm creating an excuse for not putting in HVAC at the high schools, but in the master plans, there was so much more work shown. It was a reconfiguration of the existing MURs into a student union. So capturing that student union piece at all high schools for about 24 million would encapsulate the HVAC addition as well. So there was some nuance, I guess, to that piece. Again, it's not to say we can't break out a number that could apply HVAC to all the MURs at all.
That's the line you're talking about under level 2 prioritization where it says all student centers at high schools?
Right.
So does that incorporate with the MUR or with the gym?
It either transforms, reconfigures the existing MUR into a student union. Most often than not, it would expand to create a new construction student union, where then the theater we reconfigure into, or the MUR we reconfigure into a theater. But it was less clear cut to break out just HVAC addition for high schools from the master plan diagram.
Considering it's a living document, I make a motion we approve the Mount Diablo Unified School District Facility Master Plan.
Thank you. So another option is to approve, in terms of, so we know individual, expenditures come to us anyway, right? Just like the health measures and stuff. And I guess maybe, a nice way to sort of compromise is, for the 115, that plan, say, just go forward with it. Maybe for the next priority in the group is we have, it is supposed to be, but then we gotta have an opportunity to look at it again. If we never bring it up, it might just like,
wants to second the plan.
I'm thinking about the two options here, just a moment.
Well, you better start thinking about the option of extending the meeting.
Yeah, we better do that right now. So we need a motion to extend the meeting.
I move that we extend the meeting to 11:30.
Can we do a voice vote on it versus?
Voice vote? Yeah, sure. Okay, did you second?
Yes, second.
First and a second, so Ms. Mason?
I'm trying to think, you guys will outvote me anyway, I wanna say no.
Okay,
So, yeah, right, cause we've spent like way more time on this than we need to. That's okay.
Well, the
We're
other
extending.
option is we didn't finish the conversation and we had a second meeting on it. So I think we seemed like we were close to getting to a resolution, I think we just plow it in. Because that was a thought coming in, is that we wouldn't be able to, I knew it was gonna take a long time, and that we could just have a board study session, a second meeting, but I feel like we need to do that. So, Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes, that's 4001. Extend to 11:30. Okay, so going back to this issue.
So I will second Ms. Mason's motion.
Can I just ask what exactly we're approving? Are we approving all the documents that are on the website, or are we approving this piece, this presentation?
Typically, we then follow up with your approval to add on to the website the board priorities. That would kind of wrap up the conversations from this meeting as another living document on the website.
So my one caveat for the second, well, one caveat. My concern is that if we promote Mount Diablo High School as having the theater and they don't necessarily want it, then that may be problematic. I am okay with leaving it there, but I do recall the slip of a tongue by a superintendent back in 1986 when he promised stadiums, and he meant bleachers and fields, not cement huge productions of stadiums. And I just want us to be careful about how we promote it. I would say theater with the first priority being Mount Diablo High School.
I think the earlier suggestion was to say all district theater without naming a location.
Non-site
I do
specific.
share that concern, or does Mount want this right now?
Correct.
What do they do? I think it's a fair thing to have a conversation with them, so I agree with that.
And it doesn't change the cost.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so far out. We determined at the time, anyway.
But this is a 10-year plan. If we were able to pass the bonds, it could be conceivable. It could happen within 10 years. I mean, come on, guys. We're making a commitment to this.
Yeah.
Okay, any other, we have a first and a second and a motion to approve the plan. Can we do an amendment to change that?
I'll withdraw my motion.
All right, then I will withdraw my request to change it. No, I'll leave Mount Diablo High School in there, because I think that, you know, all of us will have to take the heat if it doesn't happen. I'll let the motion stand as it is.
I withdrew it.
I'm the second, I didn't say she could withdraw.
Okay.
Takes two.
Do you want to make the motion? It's withdrawn, right?
Has it, I don't know if it's been withdrawn.
It's withdrawn. So we need a motion.
Okay, so in
Okay.
parliamentary procedure, the chair can rule, I could file a protest, but I won't.
We're not gonna be done by 11:30 this way, you guys. All right, I move that we approve the plan with a slight amendment that the, all district theater, be listed without a location at this time.
Okay, I'll second that.
Sorry, who seconded? Who seconded that?
Joanne.
Thank you. Can we do
Mr.
a?
Lee seconded. And I just want to say, I actually absolutely believe, Ms. Mason, that Mount Diablo should be a priority. I just think at this point in time, we don't have enough details for that piece, and if we get questions asking us details about that and it wasn't even brought up from the school, I don't know how we answer those questions just
There'll
yet.
be a lot of things
But
to
I
change in this
absolutely,
plan and
exactly,
move forward.
exactly, so, yeah.
Well, I was just going to remind us, if this ends up being a 2-2 vote, the motion has failed. Because Mr. Lawrence isn't here to cast the
Right. Okay, we're ready to call for a vote.
Can we please do a voice vote on this?
A voice, okay.
vote, please.
Came up, if you want us to voice it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Mason?
I vote yes, because it's a fluid document.
Ms. Mayo?
Yes.
Ms. Count?
Yes.
And I vote yes, it passes 4001. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just one last thing. We would just like to thank the district, the board, the superintendent. You guys have a fantastic district here. We've gotten so many participants at our town hall meetings. Your commitment to come to those meetings. The FMPC committee with the students was unbelievable. You've got some really smart students out there. And finally, Rose, the district staff, they've been fantastic to work with. We're pretty proud of this plan. It's you have a lot of school sites here. You have a lot of need, yes, but we really appreciate the way it was prioritized and the thought that went behind it. And we just want to applaud you guys. We appreciate you allowing us to work here, and we wish you luck moving forward.
Thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 16.7, the appointments of Mr. Jack Weir and Mr. Mark Willis to the 2018 Measure J Citizens Bond Oversight Committee.
I make a motion we approve the appointments of Mr. Jack Weir and Mr. Mark Willis to the 2018 Measure J Citizens Bond Oversight Committee.
Second.
First and a second, and are we voicing?
No.
Okay. We'll go to the vote. And it passes 4001. Thank you. Item number 16.8. New course of study, social emotional learning, the heart of education. This is actually on for information, so we don't need it approved tonight. So we'll have it back in August. Item 16.9, classified personnel job description for bond analyst. This is on for action. Do we have a motion or any questions?
Move that we approve item 16.9, job description for bond analyst.
I'll second that.
Ms. Mayo has a question.
No, I had a lot of concerns about it. I'll vote for it, but I think there'll be some challenges and questions. I appreciate staff responding to my questions.
And that passes 4001. Thank you. 16.10, classified personnel job description for attendance/student records coordinator.
I move that we approve item 16.10, job description for attendance student record coordinator.
Second. And first and second, we'll go to vote. And that passes 4001. Thank you. 16.11, recommendation of retention of construction management services in response to request for qualification number 1832.
You have a card.
Thank you, John.
I am not. Good evening. So, you're looking at a project management firm. Under Measure A, project management firm cost this district somewhere around 13.5% of the bond monies. 2002 Measure C, we decided that we didn't want a project management firm, we wanted inside personnel. Started off with the project management firm, they did not do well, we got rid of them. Ended up with 2002, cost us right around 5% of the bond. That's a pretty good difference. 2010, Measure C, excuse me. Right now, we are sitting between 4 and 5% cost of managing this project because it's been done in-house. This is a small bond. It's small, well, it is. It's only $150 million. You're looking at losing at least $17 million in project management costs, minimum. Could be more than that. So that $115 million that was being talked about, you're closer to $100 million, maybe even $95 million. So a Herculean effort needs to be put into place to find people to hire in-house and have them do the project management instead, because that's a huge loss of funding from that bond. And I personally would rather have my tax dollars go towards paying somebody who's working in-house and is working for the district and for the best interests of the district, as opposed to an outside firm. Notice I didn't say working out-house. That's working for their own profit. Yeah, companies need to make a profit. They need to survive, hire people, what have you. But this is my money you're playing with. It's your money you're playing with. I want the biggest bang for my buck. I want the best we can do for the students in this district. You serve the students well, you serve the community well. You guys know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any other comments or questions?
Dr. Meyer, would you be able to explain or share with us why this recommendation is coming forward at this time?
Excuse me, my computer just died. I think it's a
Don't
sign.
take it personally, right?
What else is going to be turned off? I can say that that yes, Measure C was successfully handled inside it with on staff. It is hard to not say in-house or outhouse. But I do know that it became a capacity issue, and with wanting to get projects going in multiple places across the district, and having big projects going at once, that the project management firm was brought up for that very reason. And I don't know if there's more to add from the maintenance and operation team, but it came to where I know there were funds that were all of a sudden made available. But is there anything in addition to add? Is there a capacity issue specifically, or also maybe a lack of people that could be hired on staff? Please, Richard, if you wouldn't mind, or Rose.
That is one of the things, escalation and staff being available to actually do this work. I mean, even construction management firms are having a tough time finding staff to manage projects. So getting qualified staff and escalation to get the projects done, because every year we postpone these, is an additional cost as well. So that's one of the things that we took in consideration as well.
And this could be a case where if there is a desire on the part of the board to move towards bringing the projects in-house, that there could be some kind of continued report or update on where we are with trying to staff that. I don't want to give a report to people when I'm not going to be here, but I think that
I just wanted to add on the staff. We have had recently a position out last year and then again this year, and the amount of inquiry for those positions have been very limited. So it really does have to do with the type of staff that's applying or really not applying for the jobs at this time.
So I could see recommending dual action, one that approves this now with keeping the position open and we're continuing to recruit and perhaps checking in to, whatever timeline you specify, to bring that topic back.
Because this particular proposal doesn't have a year limit, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and fiscal impact, it's not shared. There's not even a cost per hour or cost per project. Right. So. I guess I would just request that we look at this, within 6 months and then perhaps a year.
Can you remind us?
Yeah. I'm good with those kind of things.
So we had a motion.
No. Are we looking for action on this tonight because of the timeline of hiring the firm soon for projects, or what's the?
Yes.
For the summer work?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So could we just make a motion to approve the retention of the following construction management firm, RGM and Associates, to serve as our district's construction management contracted team for construction management services, and we will revisit this in 6 months.
Second.
Second. Second. And we yell about And that passes 4001. Thank you. Let's see. 16.12, award of contract to Bell Products Incorporated for bid number 1844 for the Dent Center server room HVAC project. May I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the award of contract to Bell Products, Inc. for bid number 1844 for the Dent Center server room HVAC project.
Second. We have a first and a second. We'll go to the vote. Passes 4001. Thank you. 1613, award of bid number 1845, permanent grandstand and ramp addition at Mount Dabo High School to Southern Bleacher Company Incorporated.
I move we approve item 1613, award of bid number 1845, permanent grandstand and ramp addition at Mount Diablo High School to Southern Bleacher Company Incorporated.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. We'll go to the vote.
Glad to see that one moving forward. Very excited.
That passes 4001. Thank you. Award of bid 16.14, award of bid 1847, food service warehouse to Milas Modular Buildings Incorporated.
Make a motion, we approve the award bid of number 1847, food services warehouse to Mealy's Modular Inc.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. We'll go to the vote. That passes 4001. Thank you. 1615, replacement of the maintenance operations of facilities, communications devices with AT&T, FirstNet, and wireless voice and data service plan. This is information and action.
So, I did have a couple of questions. I understand that it's replacing two-way radios and Versa something with iPhones. So it's 92 iPhones that we're purchasing plus the communication plan. Who will be assigned the iPhones?
This will be all of our M&O staff that would be, as administrators as well, cabinet level administrators that will have all the iPhones. And this will allow us to do our work order systems on, get rid of paper, so it'll be paperless and more real time to accommodate those things as well. Also,
So let me, you're the first person that has said it would be a paperless work order system. Okay, so that's good news. So that means a carpenter in the field can put in a work order by the phone to order something, or a plumber.
well, he will receive his work orders electronically, so he'll be automatically implemented on his phone versus getting old paper work orders now and completing them and closing them out. This way they will have it electronically.
I was confusing work orders versus parts. I apologize. Okay, so it's.
Questions?
I'm thinking. So with two-way radios, you typically have the ability to push call multiple users or whatever at once. Will you be able to use that with the iPhone too?
Yes, it will, and it's actually better technology. AT&T brought one out to demonstrate to us how it works. Our current push-to-talk radios are not very dependable and very hard to communicate out in the field, and this will give us flexibility to get more accurate push-to-talk connection, as well as the cell phone feature as well. So, and it's unlimited for that as well.
So, will you have, be able to receive the calls, transmit the data throughout the district? Because I can tell you in Pleasant Hill there are dead spots.
And AT&T is working on that. They have the FirstNet contract for this, and I believe what they're telling us in the next 2 years, they got to implement nationwide because they have the nationwide contract. So they're looking at putting additional cell towers throughout the whole district and other areas as well. Part of the FirstNet implementation throughout statewide, countrywide, actually.
And that's important because we want to use this system to contact employees during emergency times. The reason I know that Pleasant Hill has dead spots if towers go down is because the CERT organization has already proven that. So we can tell you which hills you need to be on to broadcast from.
And with the FirstNet, what AT&T is telling us, we wouldn't be second because police and those get priority, but we'd be second in command. That would we have the capabilities to communicate with staff in case of an emergency throughout district-wide.
I appreciate the information. I was also surprised to know that we would have 92 people using them, so that speaks to the number of employees working in M&O.
Well, that's not all M&O, that's
right.
some.
The ones that are in the field.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I move that we approve the replacement of maintenance on operations and facilities communications devices with AT&T FirstNet and wireless voice and data service plan.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second, we'll go to the vote. That passes 4-0-0-1, thank you. 16.16, annual evaluation of outdated documents.
I know that's a really complicated one. I make a motion we approve the destruction of outdated documents.
Second.
First and a second, we'll go to the vote. Passes 4-0-0-1. Thank you. 16-17, resolution 18/19-59, authorization to make year-end intra-budget transfers.
Make a motion we approve resolution 18/19-59, authorizing year-end intra-budget transfers.
Second.
Any questions?
I had a question, and it pertains to this one and the two subsequent items. Superintendent or designee, on July 1st, does the superintendent, in this instance, become the interim superintendent?
Yes.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because in the third one, it gives Ms. Ramos, and not that I'm opposed to Ms. Ramos having the signature authority. And normally the signature authority goes with the superintendent. So I just wanted to assure that there wouldn't be any operational conflict between the two decision makers of our district.
Yes, the interim superintendent can sign the superintendent any type of document and has that full authority from the board.
All right. Do you want to wait till we get to that one?
I'm thinking probably because Mr. Violent won't be here every day, there might be times when a signature is needed, and Ms. Ramos is here.
Right.
I'm thinking that was when I thought when I read it, why it was said that way.
The interesting thing was the third document referenced interim, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a first response. That passes 4001. Thank you. 1618, right? Yeah, 1618, resolution number 18/19-63, authorization to award summer contracts.
I make a motion we adopt resolution number 18/19-63, authorization to award summer contracts for 2019 and 2020.
Okay,
Second.
we have first and second. We'll go to the vote. And that passes 4001. Thank you. 1619, authorization for the chief business officer to be designated as signer in the absence of the superintendent.
I make a motion we approve authorization of Rose Ramos, Chief Business Officer, to be designated as signer for the district in the absence of the superintendent.
Second. We have a first and a second, and we will go to the vote. That passes. 4001. Thank you. 16.20 is the authorization for the interim superintendent to make interim appointments, approve provisional internship permits, variable term waivers, and board authorizations in code 44256B and in code 44258.2 in advance of the board meeting on August 12, 2019. And we have a speaker card, Mr. Mounts.
To the board, I almost left out of here. I knew it was going to be this long. Well, Dr. Myers, you had a long night. I was hoping that you'd shorten it on your last board meeting. But anyway, I will say that before we talk about this, it's been a pleasure knowing you, working with you, and you have tough skin. That's one of the things I've noticed about you. You're a tough lady. I appreciate that. On this particular item here, I wanted to know, is there any anticipation date for the hiring of this new superintendent?
Yes.
Yes.
We are interim. We have on board until the end of September, so we're hoping by October 1st.
So, your, the interim superintendent, I see here that you have you'll be signing a lot of vacancies, huh? So, how many vacancies do you anticipate having for interim superintendent to be signing? You got a lot of people leaving out the door around here? I mean, 4 vacancies, 5, 6, or what? I mean,
So this is talking about before August 12th.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Usually we
that.
hire people right before the start of school to make
Yeah,
sure we
right.
filled all our positions, right?
Yeah.
There will be teachers, psychologists, all kinds of positions that will still need to be filled by that time.
So hopefully that the interim superintendent will take into consideration the diversity of this district in terms of the hiring. You know, to make sure that I'm not sure who it is, that they understand that you do have a diverse school district that should reflect students that they represent. That's what I want to say. Dr. Myers, good luck.
I won't forget you, Ruby.
Thank you. I won't forget you either.
Thank you. Thank you for staying awake with us.
I know, man.
Okay.
I move, whoops. I move that the board authorize, provide authorization for the interim superintendent to make interim appointments, create FTE, and approve provisional internship permits, variable term waivers, and board authorizations as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second, we'll go to the vote. That passes 4-0-0-1, so. No other business?
Do we have documents to sign?
Okay, so congratulations for getting through. Of course, we made it for you till 11 o'clock at night, so.
Could have come to
it's a
one.
short extension. Yeah. But, thanks for everybody for being here, and we are now adjourned.